In the midnight winter, a deserted hospital room. Well, it wasn't entirely deserted. Enclosed by sterile white walls, Ethan Smith lay on his hospital bed, a solitary figure in the bustling city's heart. He glanced at the clock. It was already 2 a.m., but he remained awake, his mind racing, desperate to make the most of the time he had left on hand. The rhythmic beeping of the heart monitor was almost hypnotic in the stillness of the night. It might sound nonsensical, but his life was that miserable. To survive in this cold and ruthless world, even the dying cling to moments that slip through their fingers like sand. The city outside was a labyrinth of indifference, and his small, sterile room was his final fortress against it. Ethan's life had always been filled with mystery and sadness. At the age of 6, his parents suddenly disappeared without a trace, leaving him utterly alone in a world that seemed to care little for the fate of one lost boy. Though they left him a modest inheritance, managed by a child care law firm, it did little to fill the void their absence created. The money provided for his basic needs, but it couldn't shield him from the cruelty of the world. In school, he became an easy-to-bully target. The other students, perhaps sensing his vulnerability, bullied him relentlessly. They mocked him for his silence, for his loneliness, for the parents he no longer had. He endured their taunts in silence, retreating further into himself with each passing day. His only tranquility came from the pages of the novels. These stories offered him an escape, a way to forget about the torment and isolation he faced daily in reality. The heroes in these tales became his companions, their courage and strength was the opposite reflection of his own fragile existence. He devoured books whenever he could, losing himself in worlds where anything was possible, where magic was real, and where he wasn't alone. But just as he turned 16, life dealt him its final, cruel blow. He was diagnosed with terminal cancer. What started as a persistent fatigue and occasional dizziness soon spiraled into something much worse. His body grew weaker by the day. The cancer spread like wildfire, sapping his strength and leaving him a shadow of his former self. The once energetic boy was now bedridden, his frail form ravaged by the disease. His physical condition deteriorated rapidly. The cancer left him gaunt and pale, his skin stretched tightly over his bones. His once bright eyes grew dull, dark circles forming beneath them as sleep became increasingly elusive. Every breath was a struggle, his lungs burning with each inhale, and his chest felt as though it was being crushed under an invisible weight. The pain was a constant companion, gnawing at him day and night. Despite the agony and the hopelessness of his situation, Ethan found some measure of peace in his decision to donate all the inheritance money his parents had left him. He had no need for money anymore, and he made sure that it would be put to good use, perhaps to help other orphans like him, or to support those fighting battles as he had. Now, as he lay in the hospital bed, his head felt impossibly heavy, the room spinning around him. He considered calling the nurse for help, but the inevitability of his situation kept him silent. The pressure on his frail shoulders was immense, a constant reminder of the burden he could no longer bear. He glanced at the novel beside him, a book he had been trying to finish before his time ran out. It was his final story, the one he would never complete. Just a few more pages left, he thought, regretful that he would not see how the novel had ended. But the strength to continue began to leave him. His vision blurred as his eyelids grew heavy, the weight of the world pressing down on him. The pain that had haunted him for so long now seemed distant, replaced by a cold numbness that seeped into his bones. Looks like I really need a peaceful sleep now. Realizing the seriousness of his condition, he tried to shift his position, seeking comfort on this cold wintry night. The bed was an inviting oasis, and he settled back, hoping for some warmth. But it was already too late. He was already on his deathbed this time. With one last shuddering breath, Ethan Smith, a lonely boy who lived in books, left the world in a quiet, solitary way. The darkness enveloped him, a final, cold embrace, and the book beside him slipped from his grasp, its story left unfinished, much like his own. Ding! Congratulations! You can choose 3 unique skills for crossing the dimensional boundary. You are allowed to pick only one skill from each category below. Huh? What's this? Where am I? As if waking from a bad dream, Ethan rubbed his eyes hard to clear the confusion. His heart pounded in his chest as he looked around frantically. I was just in the hospital room. How did I get here? He looked around in confusion. He was inside some kind of dark space, with no means of perception or communication. His voice wouldn't leave his throat. He couldn't hear his voice or anyone else's. The silence was absolute, oppressive. There was only a bright translucent panel in front of him. It looked like some kind of system panel. It was surreal, like something straight out of one of those fantasy novels. Basic skills. Ultra smell. Ultra hearing. Ultra vision. Speed boost. Higher health regeneration. Higher mana regeneration. Appraisal basic. Extra health. Extra mana square root right angle dot. 99 plus more. Mythic skills. Dragon's hockey. Dragon wings, fire. Rapid cast. Thought acceleration. Blood berserker. Skill absorption. Mystic lord. Body duplication. Telekinesis. Giant transformation. 99 plus more. Ultimate skills. Black Thunder King. Rune of Eternity, Undying. Phoenix Rebirth. Space Manipulation. Universal Synthesis. Sacred Body. Destroyer Body. Dragon Transformation. Phoenix Transformation. Divine Prison. Astral Summoning. Demon Transformation. 99 plus more. After looking at the system panel, Ethan felt ridiculous. This was like something out of a fantasy novel. He was very familiar with this kind of setting, given his background as a fantasy novel enthusiast. Does this mean I have died already? Or is it all just a dream? But it was too realistic to be a dream. Finding no other options, he focused on the system panel, where he was instructed to choose 3 skills. So, I just have to choose 3 skills out of these millions of options. *T. It's too hard. There are so many good skills, but why only 3? I want all of them. Nevertheless, he had to choose quickly, as time was running out. There was a timer in the corner of the system panel, counting down ominously. Knowing the importance, he calmed his mind and read the descriptions of each skill to decide his path ahead. If he wanted a good life, a good skill combination was essential. He started reading the skill descriptions one after another, which took a lot of time. But considering the importance, it was nothing. I chose this one, and lastly, this one. Finally, he picked his favorite combination. Confirmation received. You will receive your chosen skills after you are reincarnated into a random dimensional world. Hey, wait. I have some questions to ask. Hello? Ah. Before he could get any response, his vision turned black, and he remembered nothing after that. Initiating the reincarnation process. 0.1%, 11%, 59%, 100%. Complete. Light. Blinding light pierced through Ethan's closed eyelids, dragging him back to consciousness. He groaned and shielded his eyes with his arm, trying to make sense of his surroundings. Where was he? As his vision cleared, he found himself lying on a grassy field under a bright blue sky. The air was fresh, filled with the scent of flowers and the distant sound of a flowing river. It was a stark contrast to the cold, suffocating room he had left behind. He sat up, looking around in bewilderment. What is this place? He muttered to himself, still trying to comprehend the reality of his situation. The last thing he remembered was collapsing onto his hospital bed, feeling his life slip away. And then there was that strange system panel offering him skills for crossing a dimensional boundary. Had he really died and been reincarnated into another world? He shook his head, trying to focus. This was real. This was happening. He had chosen 3 skills from that extensive list, but what were they again? Status, he said instinctively, hoping the system panel would appear again. To his surprise, it did. Name, Angus Degerow, Ethan Smith. Race, human. Level, 0. Occupation, none. Class, none. Age, 18. Strength, 9. Agility, 7. Defense, 8. Mana, 100. Skills. Appraisal, provides the ability to analyze and understand the properties and value of objects and beings. Skill absorption, allows the user to absorb skills from others, up to a certain limit, enhancing their own abilities. Universal synthesis, enables the user to combine different materials or energies to create new items or effects. Ethan stared at the panel, the implications of his chosen skills sinking in. These were powerful abilities, ones that could make him a formidable force in this new world. But why had he been given this second chance? Setting that aside, he began to explore the system again. Angus Degaro? He noticed that his name had changed somehow. Did this mean he had a family in this world? But wait, why couldn't he recall anything about them? Ah, forget it, he muttered. It didn't seem likely he'd be able to find them soon anyway. He was in a dense forest, after all. He had the body of an 18-year-old but with a completely unfamiliar face. Suddenly finding himself in a perfectly healthy body felt a little strange yet extremely comforting. Although he wasn't able to see his face clearly, he could tell from his assumptions that he had a fairly handsome face with a well-toned body. It feels really weird, like suddenly wearing someone else's skin. Fortunately, I was born as a human male. That's a relief at least, Ethan muttered, examining his body. His skin was fair, smooth, and unblemished, almost unnaturally perfect, with a sheen that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. His eyes, an impenetrable void of starless midnight, held a depth that felt both chilling and captivating, as if gazing into them would reveal an endless, shadowed expanse. His silky black hair cascaded in dark, lustrous waves, adding a touch of elegance to his otherwise enigmatic appearance. The unfamiliar attire he wore, a brown leather-coated, intricately designed hunter's outfit, seemed both advanced and archaic, its texture and cut suggesting an otherworldly origin. The whole ensemble created a disconcerting sense of perfection, as though he were a hyper-realistic creation from a high-tech simulation. If he were on Earth, he would have been called an idol. Before he could ponder further, a rustling noise caught his attention. He turned to see a figure emerging from the treeline. It was a young woman, dressed in a simple yet elegant white dress, her eyes wide with curiosity and concern. She had long, flowing silvery hair that cascaded down her back in soft waves, catching the light with a hint of red. Her eyes were a striking shade of emerald green, sparkling with intelligence and a hint of mischief. Her gaze turned sharp upon seeing an unfamiliar person, and she instinctively reached for a dagger at her waist. "Hey, who are you?" she asked, breaking the silence as she cautiously approached. The language was different from that on Earth, but he understood it as if it were natural. Ethan sensed the caution in the young woman's stance and raised his hands in a gesture of peace. "Calm down, lady. I mean no harm. As you can see, I'm harmless here. For all's I were Upsilon. Her brow furrowed with a mix of suspicion and curiosity. "Oh. What are you doing in the wilderness, and where are you from?" Ethan quickly made up a story, explaining that he could only recall his name and that his memories were fuzzy. He also mentioned how he had gotten lost here. "I see," she said, relaxing slightly, though a hint of suspicion remained. Ethan cheered inwardly, realizing that she believed his made-up story. "Can you tell me where I am?" he asked, relaxing his muscles. He stared at the young woman, amazed. Seeing a real-life fantasy world woman left him a little dazed. She was truly beautiful, a perfect piece of art. She allowed herself a small smile. "You're in the wild forest, just outside Arcadia City. My name is Arya. I found you lying here for a while, which explains my caution." Arcadia City? A name straight out of a fantasy novel, Ethan thought, marveling at the irony. But he felt excitement, realizing he could finally walk and talk normally. "I'm Ethan," he replied, standing up and brushing the grass off his clothes. "Thank you for helping me, Arya." She nodded. "So, where do you want to go from here? Any plan in mind?" He hesitated. He had no idea what to do next. This world was completely foreign to him, and he had no connections or purpose. But then he remembered the skills he had chosen and the potential he now possessed. Maybe this was his chance to start anew, to forge a new path for himself. "No," he said finally. "I don't have anywhere to go. But I want to learn more about this place. Can you help me, please?" She examined him from head to toe, noticing he had no weapons. Adding to the fact that he was at level 0, she asked, "Do you not have the blessing of the god?" "You mean this system thing?" Ethan asked, just to be sure. "Yes, that." "So, you do have one. But why are you at level 0? Ethan sweated. "I don't know either. As I said earlier, nothing is coming to mind. Can you not help me?" Arya smiled warmly. "Oh, of course. Come with me to the dungeon city. Everyone is welcome there. There's much to see, And I'm sure you'll find your place soon. Dungeon City? Ethan asked. So, there are dungeons in this world as well? Great, he thought inwardly, feeling genuine excitement. This place seemed like the best starting point for his journey. His chosen skills should be very useful here. Thanks, Arya. You're really kind and beautiful. I am grateful for your help. Oh. Follow me then, Arya, blushing slightly at the compliment, started leading Ethan to the dungeon city. As they journeyed, their conversation flowed smoothly. Arya's smile was captivating him for a moment. The journey to Dungeon City was filled with wonders. The landscape was a patchwork of rolling hills, dense forests, and sparkling rivers. They encountered a few beasts along the way, but Arya dealt with them easily. Ethan was impressed by her fighting prowess and magical dagger skills. She was swift and precise, piquing his curiosity. He activated his appraisal skill. His eyes turned a bluish hue, and the following information appeared in his mind. Name, Arya Silvermoon. Age, 19. Level, 40. Affiliation, Arcadia Hunters Guild, Silvermoon Assassin Clan. So, she's an assassin? And level 40, on top of that? Ethan thought, slightly frightened, but as he observed her demeanor, he relaxed slightly. They passed small villages where people went about their daily lives, tending to fields or selling wares in bustling marketplaces. The people were friendly, greeting them with warm smiles and curious glances. It felt like a medieval period on Earth, but with magical wonders. Everyone seemed to wield some form of magic. Ethan learned from Arya that everyone in this world was born with a system, which they awakened at the age of 10. He had thought he was unique for having a system, but now it seemed like his journey might be tougher than he expected. Arya also told him about the kingdom of Arachnes, a land rich in history and magic, ruled by a benevolent king who valued peace and prosperity. It was an affiliated kingdom of the Kairos Empire, one of the 5 massive empires. Arcadia, the dungeon city, was a hub of adventurers, hunters, and merchants. The city attracted people from all walks of life, seeking fame, fortune, or simply a new start. It sounded like a place where Ethan could truly belong after enduring torment for years. Ethan, why did you fall silent all of a sudden? Arya asked, noticing his stiff movements. No, nothing, he stammered, trying to sound casual. I was just thinking about what to do next. Don't worry, Ethan. I'll help you out. Didn't you mention wanting to become a hunter? I'll help you register with the Hunter Guild using my recommendation, she added with a cheerful smile. He could only smile back in gratitude. He always thought assassins were emotionless creatures, but Arya was clearly built different. Plus, she added, her eyes twinkling, if you register with the Hunter Guild, they'll give you 1 F-class skill book for free. Oh, they give free skill books as well? He asked, surprised. Skill books were so rare, why would they give them for free? Yes, Ethan, they do. You don't even remember that much? Arya asked, raising an eyebrow. No. Oh, that's serious, she said in surprise. You're just a level 0, right? You must have been a sheltered kid from a very young age. Were you some kind of royalty or something? Arya asked suspiciously, her eyes narrowing as she studied him. She found Ethan very handsome and charming, despite the commoner outfit he wore. A royalty? I actually don't know myself. So I can't deny the low possibility, he replied, his words were true in a sense. So, it wasn't a lie. I am trying to find my identity actually. Arya looked a little concerned as she warned, but embarking on an adventure at level 0 is dangerous. Arachnes isn't as safe as it used to be, I've heard rumors of demons on the rise. You should be cautious. He nodded silently, feeling a chill run down his spine at the mention of demons. As they approached the city gates, he marveled at the grandeur of Arcadia, the dungeon city. The walls were 50 feet tall and imposing, crafted from white stone that gleamed in the sunlight. Guards stood at the entrance, clad in shining armor and bearing the kingdom's crest. Halt. Everyone, line up and present your identification emblem. It's 10 copper coins each, a tall, imposing guard boomed, addressing the crowd outside the gate. Hey, Arya, will they let me through? He asked nervously. Arya flashed him a reassuring smile. Of course they will. I'm with you, remember? Her confidence eased his apprehension. After a while, it was finally their turn. As they passed through the heavy gate, the guards nodded respectfully, allowing them entry without hesitation. He couldn't help but feel amazed by the efficiency. He. Arya couldn't contain her amusement, letting out a mischievous laugh as she noticed his stunned expression. Embarrassed by his reaction, he quickly composed himself. It was obviously because of Arya's silent influence. Inside the city, the streets were bustling with activity. Merchants called out to potential customers, hawking their goods from colorful stalls. Children ran through the streets, laughing and playing. The buildings were a mix of old and new, with ancient stone structures standing alongside modern, intricately designed houses. It was a vibrant, lively place, and he felt a sense of belonging he had never experienced before. M4L_Yen. Hey, Arya, is your quest complete? Want to go for a dungeon dive today? A muscular man interrupted as they passed by. Yes, it's all wrapped up, Gerald. As for the dungeon dive, maybe another time. Take care. Arya replied cheerfully. Arya, is he your new boyfriend? Another old woman teased with a wink. Embarrassed, Arya replied. No, Grandma, he's just a friend. See you later. She waved off the teasing remark with a laugh. Hey, good day, Arya. Good day. Good evening, Arya. Good evening to you too, Matt. Better hurry home, or your mom will come after you with her trusty pen again, Arya teased with a playful grin. Many passers-by greeted Arya with warm smiles, and she responded in kind, her own smile genuine and infectious. He couldn't help but be astonished. Was this how people interacted here, creating such a warm and welcoming atmosphere? It stood in stark contrast to the loneliness he had endured before. Perhaps the suffocating atmosphere of his previous life, where everyone was engrossed in their own affairs, contributed to that sense of isolation. However, now I am certain I will find my happiness sooner or later, he murmured to himself, feeling a glimmer of hope. Arya led him to a cozy inn nestled near the city center. The innkeeper, a kindly old woman named Greta, greeted them with a warm smile. Hey, Arya, how have you been? It's been a while since I've seen you. Have you forgotten about this old lady already? Greta teased affectionately. Haha, you jest, Aunt Greta. How could I forget you? Look, I'm right here, Arya replied cheerfully, her smile revealing pearly white teeth that shone in the warmth of the inn. I can see that, dear. Who's he? Your boyfriend or husband? Aunt Greta asked with a mischievous twinkle in her eye. Arya's ears and neck flushed a deep crimson at the question. Aunt Greta, you jest. You can stop you teasing, can you? Arya replied, trying to act natural, as she fixed her loose silvery hair with slight arc. Ethan was left speechless at the scene. Why did everyone assume they were a couple? Innkeeper Greta chuckled softly. Alright, I won't tease you anymore. What can I do for you both today? Composing herself, Arya answered, Aunt Greta, let me introduce you. This is Ethan, he could be considered as my new friend. He needs a place to stay. Can you see if there's a room available for him? Price is not an issue. Hello, Aunt Greta. Ethan awkwardly introduced himself, raising his hand for a handshake. But Aunt Greta stood there with no reaction whatsoever, instead, a frown etched her face. Did I make some kind of mistake? Ethan wondered. Arya nudged Ethan's shoulder playfully, a mischievous glint in her eyes. Ethan, what are you doing? You can't just touch a lady like that. It's very impolite, she teased, her voice light with amusement. Ethan blinked, caught off guard by her reaction. Oh. His mouth fell open in bewilderment, struggling to process her unexpected response. Arya chuckled softly, seeing his flustered state. Relax, I'm just teasing you, she said, her smile warm and reassuring. Ethan quickly withdrew his hand, feeling a rush of embarrassment. Ah, sorry. I didn't mean to. He stammered, cheeks flushed. He wasn't sure if the women here were so conservative or if it was just a matter of formality. Aunt Greta, the innkeeper, who had been watching their exchange with a bemused expression, interrupted before he could dig himself deeper. Well, looks like we have a lively one here, she remarked with a chuckle, her voice filled with affectionate amusement. Arya dear, we do have a room available, but it's quite small. Can your friend manage in there, or should I suggest another inn? Ethan breathed a sigh of relief at the prospect of a room. I'll manage, Aunt Greta. Please, I'm really tired, he replied eagerly, eager to rest after their long journey. Arya nodded in agreement. He's had a long day. I'm sure he'll be fine, she reassured Aunt Greta, casting Ethan a sympathetic glance. As Aunt Greta retrieved the room key from a nearby drawer, she offered him a playful warning. All right then, young man. Just remember, don't complain later that I didn't warn you about the cramped quarters. I won't, Aunt Greta. Thank you, Ethan said gratefully, accepting the key with a tired smile. All right, Ethan, I'll come by tomorrow to pick you up. Goodbye. Oh, thanks, Arya, for your help. I am really grateful. Arya just shrugged before leaving. After bidding Aunt Greta goodbye and ascending the creaky staircase to his room, Ethan couldn't help but reflect on the day's events. The city of Arcadia was bustling with life and mystery, and Arya had been a comforting guide throughout. Despite his initial awkwardness, he was grateful for her companionship and insight into this new world. Collapsing onto the small, neatly made bed in his room, Ethan closed his eyes and let out a long sigh of relief. The day had been filled with surprises and challenges, but he was determined to make the most of his second chance in Arachnes. Tomorrow, he would register as a hunter with Arya's help and begin his journey through this wonderful world filled with mystical possibilities. He was truly grateful for Arya's help. If she hadn't been around, he would have been lost in that forest, prey to the ferocious beasts there. Status, he commanded in his mind to see if anything had changed in his stats. Name, Angus Degerow, Ethan Smith. Occupation, none. Race, human. Level, 0. Class, none. Age, 18. Strength, 9. Agility, 7. Defense, 8. Mana, 100. Unique skills. Basic, appraisal. Mythic, skill absorption. Ultimate, universal synthesis. Just as he guessed, nothing had changed. He hadn't done anything, after all. He checked the detailed information of his skills. Appraisal, a basic skill that provides basic information on the target. It's still a very useful ability, especially for navigating unfamiliar places. Skill absorption allows the user to absorb other skills after weakening them. Note, skills cannot be absorbed from beings that are 5 levels or more higher than yourself. However, this limit can be extended as proficiency increases, and various unknown factors may influence this restriction. It was a good skill for gaining more skills quickly, but was limited by level restrictions. But, it had the potential to grow up at least. Epsilon. Universal synthesis, this unique ultimate skill allows the user to merge 2 or more types of matter, energies, or any form of data, including their quintessential forms, to create an evolved version with unique characteristics and effects. The result is often a new entity or force that exhibits enhanced capabilities, unparalleled power, and diverse applications, making the wielder of this skill a master of transformation and creation. Note, it costs a lot of mana. The higher the task, the more mana it requires to cast the skill. It was a hidden gem among the skills he had seen. Although it fell into the category of unique skills, it was much more powerful than that. The phrase unique ultimate really fit it well. That means only he possessed this powerful skill. I really want to try it on something. To see if it works as it says. But, the room was completely empty, aside from the bed and a dining table. Oh, there were a few spoons on the table. He could use this ability on them. Appraisal. Silver spoon X2. Metal grade, E. Durability, 12. He casually picked up 2 silver spoons and checked their status to note the changes after the synthesis. Synthesis, he commanded calmly, raising his palm over the spoons to activate the skill. In an instant, his palm began to glow with a white light and enveloped the spoons. Ding! Your synthesis was successful. That's it? The process was already complete before he could even blink for a second. However, the synthesized spoon looked a little bigger and sturdier. He quickly checked the stats using appraisal. Appraisal. Silver spoon, sentient. Metal grade, D. Durability, 30. Whoa, he exclaimed in wonder. Its metal grade had risen to D, and its durability had increased significantly. However, most importantly, it had become a sentient object. This meant it was now aware of its existence in the world, though not capable of communication, just like trees. Knock. Knock. Just as he was about to fall asleep, a sudden knock jolted him back from his reverie. "Who is it?" he asked, alerted. "Mr. Ethan, I have brought your dinner." "Oh, okay, coming." A little girl, around 7 or 8 years old, stood outside carrying a tray of food. The little girl entered the room with the tray in hand, just like a young adult. "What's your name, little girl?" The little girl blinked. "Oh, my name is Emily, Mr. Ethan." "Why do you ask?" He shrugged. "I was just asking casually." "You can call me Ethan, by the way." Emily simply nodded and quickly left the room. "Did she get scared or something?" he chuckled, amused. Afterward, he finished his dinner and fell into a deep slumber like a sloth. The morning sun filtered through the small window, waking Ethan from a deep sleep. He stretched, feeling the soreness from yesterday's journey. The room was cramped, but it had served its purpose. He washed up quickly and headed downstairs. Aunt Greta greeted him with a warm smile. "Good morning, Ethan. Did you sleep well?" "Yes, thank you, Aunt Greta," he replied. "Where can I find breakfast?" "Right here," she said, pointing to a table laden with bread, cheese, and fruit. "Help yourself." Ethan filled a plate and sat down to eat, savoring the simple yet delicious meal. As he ate, he thought about his plans for the day. He needed to register as a hunter and start learning more about this world. Just as he finished his meal, Arya walked in. "Good morning, Ethan," she said cheerfully. "Ready for our adventure?" "Good morning, Arya." "Yes, I'm ready," he said, standing up and grabbing a simple cloth bag from the inn. Aunt Greta handed him with a smile. They left the inn and walked through the bustling streets of Arcadia. The city was alive with activity, vendors shouting about their goods and people hurrying to their destinations. It was a vibrant, colorful place, unlike anything Ethan had ever seen. Arya led him to a large building with a sign that read Hunters Guild. They entered, and Ethan was immediately struck by the sheer number of people inside. Hunters of all shapes and sizes were gathered, talking, laughing, and preparing for their missions. The language was entirely different from Earth, but he could understand it clearly as it was engraved in his mind. Arya guided Ethan to the registration desk, where a stern-looking woman sat behind a counter. "Hey, Melinda, this is Ethan," she said. "He's here to register as a hunter." The woman named Melinda's eyes softened when she saw who was speaking. "Is he a newbie, Arya?" Melinda asked, scrutinizing Ethan. "Yes, he is my new friend. Can you help?" "Is that so?" Ethan stepped forward, revealing a small smile. "Hello, nice to meet you, Miss Melinda. I am Ethan Smith." She also smiled back. "Oh, nice to meet you too. What a polite kid. Just like you, Arya. So, if you're a newbie, then you have to fill out this form," she said calmly. "Name, age, skills, level, etc., etc." Ethan took the form, filled it with his details, and handed it back to her. "Alright, your hunter ID will be ready in a few minutes, then you can choose a F-class skill for free," Melinda replied curtly. As they waited, Arya explained more about the guild. Hunters take on various missions, from gathering resources to slaying monsters. It's a dangerous job, but it's also rewarding. You'll earn money, gain experience, and can even find rare items. Moreover, they are granted access to the dungeon for a fee as well. It was really convenient. A few minutes later, Melinda handed Ethan a small badge. "This is your hunter badge," she said. "Take good care of it. And you can choose one skill from these skills as per your liking." She displayed a few glowing books on the table. Fireball. Wolf Instinct. Tiger's Claw. Speed Boost. Body Fortification Basic. Swift Sword Strike. Ethan was amazed at the sight. Those glowing skill books were really tempting. But he could only choose one of them. Why is it always like this? He read the description and picked Swift Sword Strike from those. From the description, it seemed best for newbies. Fireball was a good skill, but it had no defense properties. While with Swift Sword Strike, he could attack and defend at the same time. Wolf Instinct was useless as it had no attack property. "Good choice, Ethan. It is the best choice for you," Arya encouraged him from behind. So, it was final. Ding. Congratulations. You have acquired a new skill, Swift Sword Strike. Square root epsilon dot. Instantly, some basic info about sword flowed through his brain as if he had been trained in it beforehand. After the registration process, they went to a blacksmith's shop to buy a sword for Ethan. He had no money, so he had to ask Arya for help again. Arya lent it to him with no objection. To her, 10 silver coins were just like chump change. Appraisal. Iron sword. Metal grade, F. Attack power, 3. Durability, 10. Ethan bought a regular iron sword worth 10 silver coins, which was a lot. So, he reminded himself that he had to return the money to Arya someday. So, what do you plan to do next, Ethan? Arya asked as they left the blacksmith shop. Ethan looked around the market as he replied, I want to go to the dungeon. He wasn't completely sure though. He was a little scared, thinking about what might happen to him. He didn't want to die again, so he was hoping for Arya's help. Huh? Arya looked surprised. Dungeon, right off the bat? Won't it be dangerous? She looked worried. Alright, Ethan, I will go with you, but only for today. What about that? Arya decided to help him at last. Ethan couldn't be happier. If she came with him, he would be at ease. Okay, thank you, Arya. Let's go, he urged, looking at the sun, which was about to set in a few hours. From there, guided by Arya, they headed to an F-class dungeon called Fire Toad's Denver, the perfect place for newbies. The journey to the dungeon was filled with the sights and sounds of the city gradually giving way to more rugged, natural surroundings. The bustling streets turned into quieter paths lined with trees, and the air grew fresher. Ethan felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. When they arrived at the entrance of the Fire Toad's den, he could feel a strange, ominous energy emanating from within. The entrance was a dark, gaping hole in the ground, surrounded by rocks and vegetation. This is it, Arya said, her tone serious. Remember, stay close to me and follow my lead. The fire toads are dangerous but manageable for beginners. Just be cautious. Ethan nodded, gripping the hilt of his new sword tightly. Got it. Let's do this. They entered the dungeon, and the temperature immediately rose. The walls were damp and covered in moss, and the air was thick with humidity. The only light came from the glowing crystals embedded in the walls, casting an eerie, flickering glow. As they ventured deeper, the sound of dripping water echoed around them, and Ethan could hear the distant croaking of the fire toads. Arya led the way, her movements confident and sure. Keep an eye out for any signs of danger, she whispered. The fire toads can be sneaky sometimes. Ethan nodded, scanning the surroundings nervously. Suddenly, a loud croak echoed through the tunnel, and a large, fiery red toad leaped out from the shadows, its eyes glowing menacingly. Get ready, Ethan! Arya shouted, drawing her weapon. Ethan took a deep breath and raised his sword, trying to steady his trembling hands. The fire toad lunged at them, its mouth open wide, revealing sharp teeth and a glowing, fiery tongue. It was about 3 feet tall, definitely bigger than average toads. Arya moved swiftly, dodging the toad's attack and striking back with her weapon. Aim for its eyes, Ethan. They're its weak spot. Quick. Don't let it spit fire on you, she warned. Ethan nodded and lunged forward, swinging his sword with all his might. Swift sword strike. The blade connected with the toad's eye, and it let out a screech of pain, thrashing wildly. Huff. Ethan let out a sigh of relief at the sight. I can do this. He cheered himself, before continuing his strikes. Good job, Ethan. Keep it up. Arya encouraged, remaining standby. She was here just to protect him, so she wouldn't interfere unless he was in some kind of danger. With a few more well-placed strikes, the fire toad collapsed, its body dissolving into a pile of ash and embers. Nice work, Ethan, Arya said with a smile. You're doing great. Ethan smiled, feeling a rush of exhilaration. Haha, thanks, Arya. That was tough, but I managed. They continued deeper into the dungeon, encountering more fire toads along the way. Each battle was a challenge, but with Arya's guidance, Ethan grew more confident and skilled. Ding! Congratulations! You have leveled up. You have received 5 attribute points to distribute freely. Status. Name, Angus Degaro, Ethan Smith. Race, human. Level, 1. Class, none. Age, 18. Strength, 10. Agility, 8. Defense, 9. Mana, 100. Attribute points, 5. Skills, Swift Sword Strike, F. Unique skills. Basic, Appraisal. Mythic, Skill Absorption. Ultimate, Universal Synthesis. Ethan quickly distributed the attribute points on strength and agility, and felt a rush of power rising through his being. He clenched his fist, feeling the increased strength that almost felt unnatural. It was an exhilarating experience. Ethan and Arya were currently on the 3rd floor of the underground dungeon. Each floor became progressively hotter as they descended. Thud. As another big fire frog fell to the floor, defeated, Ethan saw a bright light where the frog had died. He approached and found a skill book there, the frog's body having disappeared. Skill, Fire Toad's Leap. Class, F. Description, acquiring it will grant you Fire Toad's jumping ability. Wow. Ethan, congratulations. You've triggered your first monster drop. And, on top of that, you got a skill book out of it. You're quite lucky, Arya smiled. You can equip it, or even sell it at the market for 20 silver coins at least. Both win-win situation. Let's go ahead more. While Arya was momentarily preoccupied, her attention drawn to the floor, Ethan quietly held the skill book against his chest to equip it. If Arya had noticed, she would have been stunned. Because, most people could only equip 1 active skill, and 2 passive skills at the beginning. It was the limit of an ordinary hunter's capabilities. But Ethan, unaware of this restriction, managed to do so without a sweat. Ding! Congratulations! You have acquired an active new skill, Fire Toad's Leap, F. Great! He exclaimed, inwardly seeing 2 active skills on his panel. He continued to grind until sunset. Ethan managed to level up once, which was great considering he had just started his adventure. Arya just observed his struggles, feeling impressed at his tenacity. Ethan was now at level 2 with 5 additional attribute points to distribute freely. He allocated them as per his need on defense and strength this time. Defense was equally important as others, as it makes his body more sturdier and stronger. After leveling up, progress became harder, so they decided to quit for the day. The Fire Toad's den had 20 floors in total, and Ethan managed to clear the first 4 floors all by himself. Although he was close to dying many times, Arya saved him just in time. From this, he understood that he needed to prepare himself more for the next raid. Hey, Arya, I almost forgot. How should I increase my mana? I can't use my attribute points on it. When they were about to part ways, Ethan finally asked the most important question that was on his mind. Oh, that. You need to use mana orbs to increase your mana. You can buy them from the shop, or if you're lucky, you can find them in monster drops. She added, mana orbs are very rare, so their price is also high. Ordinary people can't afford them at all. You will understand how rare they are soon enough. 0.theta. I see. Ethan nodded in understanding. By the way, how much mana do you have? Arya asked, curious. It's 100, he answered honestly. Well, 100 is good, especially if you're just a newbie. After parting ways with Arya, Ethan entered a shop to sell the extra skill book he got from another monster drop. It was the same skill he already had, Fire Toad's Leap. It was not useful to him anymore, so he sold it for 20 silver coins. Afterwards, with that money, he bought another 2 iron swords. Synthesize, he commanded after reaching his room. Congratulations. Your synthesis was successful. Appraisal. Iron sword, silver sword, sentient. Metal grade, FE. Attack power, 3 to 15. Durability, 10 to 30. Awesome, he cheered as soon as he saw the result. Its attack power had increased to 15, meaning it could double his strength now. You will be my buddy from now on. He kissed the silver sword with affection. The silver sword softly glowed as if responding to his words. The soft glow emanated a sense of warmth and companionship, almost as if the sword had a soul of its own. The next morning, Ethan woke up early, feeling a mix of excitement and apprehension. Today was the day he would head back to the dungeon alone. After a quick breakfast, he made his way to the dungeon entrance. The city was bustling with activity, but his mind was focused on the challenges ahead. As he descended into the dungeon, he felt the familiar heat intensify with each step. The first few floors were relatively easy, thanks to his new skills and his sentient sword. The fire toads were no match for him now. His confidence grew with each battle, but he knew he couldn't let his guard down. On the 5th floor, the environment changed dramatically. The walls were covered in glowing red moss, and the air was thick with the scent of sulfur. The heat was almost unbearable, and he could feel the sweat pouring down his face. He took a deep breath and pressed on. Ethan encountered a group of fire toads and used his swift sword strike to take them down quickly. As he fought, he noticed a strange-looking toad watching him from a distance. It was larger than the others and had a menacing aura. Darn! The creature leaped towards him with incredible speed. He barely managed to dodge its attack and retaliated with swift sword strike. The blow connected, but the toad didn't seem fazed. Croak croak. It let out a terrifying screech and lunged at him again while spitting fire from its mouth. This time, Ethan used Fire Toad's leap to jump out of the way and landed behind the creature. Die. He struck with all his might, and the sword glowed brightly as it cut through the toad's tough skin, thanks to his new upgraded sword. Thud. The creature let out one last screech before collapsing to the ground. Ding. Congratulations. You have leveled up. You have received 5 attribute points to distribute freely. Ethan let out a sigh of relief and checked his status. He had received more attribute points, and his strength and agility had increased. He distributed the points evenly, focusing on improving his strength and agility. Then, he quickly used skill absorption on the fallen toad. If he hadn't done that quick, the body would have disappeared completely. Congratulations! You have acquired a new passive skill. Skill: Fire Toad's Resilience, passive. Class: F. Description: acquiring it will increase the user's resistance to fire-based attacks. This was exactly what he needed. Yesterday, he wasn't able to use skill absorption because Arya was with him, but now he could use it as many times as he wanted. Ethan equipped the skill and felt a surge of energy coursing through his body. The heat in the dungeon no longer felt as intense. With renewed confidence, he continued deeper into the dungeon, determined to see how far he could go. Status: Name: Angus Degerow, Ethan Smith. Occupation: Hunter. Race: Human. Level: 3. Class: None. Age: 18. Strength: 15. Agility: 12. Defense: 15. Mana: 100. Attribute points: 0. Skills: Active: Swift Sword Strike -2, F, Fire Toad's Leap -2, F. Passive: Fire Toad's Resilience, F. Unique skills: Basic, Appraisal. Mythic, Skill Absorption. Ultimate, Universal Synthesis. After allocating his attribute points, Ethan felt a surge of power coursing through him. All his base stats had increased significantly, and he now possessed another passive skill. However, he still hadn't found any mana orbs, which was a little disappointing. His mana was the real deal. With 100 points of mana, he could run for 4 to 5 floors only. So if he wanted to clear this dungeon, he would need more mana or have to consider joining a party. But joining a party would mean risking his secret. Truly a dilemma. The 6th floor of the dungeon was even more challenging. The heat was oppressive, and the monsters were stronger and more aggressive. Fire toads were now accompanied by flame serpents, which slithered through the molten cracks in the ground, their scales shimmering with intense heat. Ethan navigated through the narrow corridors, keeping his senses sharp and his sword at the ready. The sentient silver sword seemed to hum with anticipation, as if it could sense the danger around them. The red moss on the walls pulsed with a rhythmic glow, casting airy shadows that danced with every flicker of light. As he ventured further, he encountered a group of flame serpents. Their fiery eyes glared at him as they hissed and coiled, ready to strike. He knew he had to be quick and precise. Using Fire Toad's Leap, he vaulted over the serpents, landing behind them. In one swift motion, he unleashed a series of powerful strikes with his sword, each blow finding its mark. The serpents writhed and hissed before falling lifeless to the ground. Skill Absorption. Skill Absorption. Skill Absorption. Ding. Congratulations. You gained a new skill, Flame Serpent's Breath, F. Congratulations. You have gained a new skill, Flame Serpent's Digestion, passive. Congratulations. You have gained a new skill, Flame Serpent's Resistance, passive. Ooh, damn good. As soon as he received the notifications, Ethan smiled. His skill absorption ability was really getting more useful the further he went deeper. In previous floors, skill absorption had been unsuccessful many times. Now, this brought him some relief. With so many skills, he could face more monsters now. He had a little more than 30 mana left, so he could go on a little more. Right angle Yenir dot. Moving forward, he encountered another group of fire toads and flame serpents. This time, they were in a group of 10. They lunged at him while spitting fire from their mouths. Their velocity was so instant that he had no choice but to face their attack head-on. Their fire breaths enveloped him completely, casting an eerie atmosphere. However, even after getting hit by their combined fire breath attack, Ethan was completely fine. His two passive fire resistance skills, Fire Toad's Resilience and Flame Serpent's Resistance, were doing their job. Instead of pain, he only felt as if he was in some kind of hot spring. Fire Serpent's Resistance covered his body with a protective layer that protected his clothes with efficiency. Now he don't have to be naked to continue. On the other hand, witnessing their attack fail, they lunged to bite him with their sharp claws and fangs. In counter, he used Flame Serpent's Breath to deflect them. Although it wouldn't do much damage, it would keep them busy for a while. Meanwhile, he readied himself to unleash his sword skill, Swift Sword Strike, upon them. It was the best option he had. As they got separated because of his breath attack, he quickly lunged his sword skill on them. Swift Sword Strike. Swift Sword Strike. Flame Serpent's Breath. Swift Sword Strike. He unleashed a combination of powerful strikes with his sword and breath skill, each blow finding its mark. Croak, croak. Hiss, hiss. The serpents and toads writhed and hissed before falling lifeless to the ground. Ding. Congratulations. You have leveled up. You have received 5 attribute points to distribute freely. Ethan moved forward to use skill absorption on them quickly. However, to his surprise, their bodies were nowhere to be seen. Instead, there were a few glowing skill books on the ground. Fire Toad's Leap, F, 2x. Fire Toad's Resilience, F, 3x. Flame Serpent's Breath, F, 2x. Fire Toad's Breath, F, 1x. Fire Toad's Breath was similar to Flame Serpent's Breath, but with slight differences. In Fire Toad's Breath, they spat fireballs instead of breathing fire. Honestly, he thought it should be called Fire Toad's Spittle, or something like that. Still, he equipped Fire Toad's Breath and kept the rest in his cloth bag to sell them later. Moving forward, Ethan stumbled upon a hidden chamber. The air inside was cooler, and the walls were lined with ancient, glowing runes. At the center of the room, a pedestal held a gleaming orb. His heart raced with excitement. Appraisal. Mana Orb 1x. Quality, F. Mana Capacity Increase, 20. Finally. He found a mana orb. He couldn't believe that he found it so quickly. As he approached the pedestal, a shimmering barrier appeared, blocking his path. It was a protective ward, and he knew he had to disable it to claim the orb. He examined the runes closely and realized they formed a complex puzzle. His knowledge from appraisal came in handy as he deciphered the symbols and figured out the sequence needed to deactivate the barrier. With a final touch, the barrier dissipated, and he carefully picked up the mana orb. It pulsed with a soft blue light, and he could feel its energy radiating through him. Without hesitation, he absorbed the orb, feeling a surge of power as his mana increased. Ding! Your mana capacity has increased by 20 points. Current mana capacity, 120. Good. Ethan now had 120 mana points in total, a significant boost that would aid him greatly in his journey. He felt more prepared than ever to face the challenges ahead as it refilled his mana to the brim. Leaving the hidden chamber, he continued his descent into the dungeon. The 7th floor greeted him with a fiery inferno. Lava flowed through the cracks in the ground, and the air was thick with smoke. The heat was intense, but thanks to Fire Toad's Resilience and Flame Serpent's Resistance, he was able to withstand it. As he navigated the treacherous terrain, he encountered more powerful creatures. More fire serpents and toads, towering and imposing, blocked his path. They were nearly double in size compared to the previous ones, and their fiery eyes glowed with malevolence. Ethan knew these foes would be a true test of his skills. Ethan panted heavily, his breaths coming in ragged gasps as he struggled to regain his composure. Sweat streamed down his face, blurring his vision. The giant toads and serpents on the 7th floor had proved relentless, their monstrous forms overwhelming him. He was acutely aware of his own inadequacy in the face of their strength. He activated his appraisal skill. Fire Toad. Power level, 6. Flame Serpent. Power level, 5. The dungeon's 7th floor was teeming with at least 10 to 20 of these beasts, their scales glinting ominously in the dim light. With his own level at just 4, Ethan realized that defeating them was beyond his current capabilities. Retreat was his only viable option. He needed a better strategy to overcome their defenses. As he exited the dungeon, Ethan made his way through the bustling streets to the Hunter Guild, clutching a sack of valuable loot. The guild was alive with activity, filled with hunters trading stories of their recent exploits. Melinda, the guild receptionist, greeted him with a hint of warmth in her otherwise stern demeanor. "Oh, hey, it's you again. Ethan, right?" Ethan nodded. "Yeah, it's me, the rookie. I'm here to sell my loot. Can you check how much I can get for these?" He laid out his extra skill books on the counter. Fire Toad's Leap 6x. Fire Toad's Resilience 5x. Flame Serpent's Resistance 7x. Melinda examined the books, her stern expression shifting to one of surprise. "You managed to gather a lot for a rookie, Ethan. Great job. I never thought you had it in you." Ethan accepted the praise with a modest smile, feeling a sense of accomplishment. Despite the challenges, it was a step forward. "Thanks, Melinda. I just need to get stronger. Those monsters on the 7th floor are tough." Her expression turned serious again. "Take care, rookie. It's dangerous out there. Don't push yourself too hard." With a nod, Ethan pocketed the over 600 silver coins that she handed him and left the guild. He decided to treat himself to a brief rest, savoring his small victory. Ring. Ring. Heading to the nearest tavern, Crescent Moon Tavern, Ethan entered to the chime of the welcome bell. He found a table near the window and sat down. A waiter soon approached, and Ethan ordered some wine and roasted beef while browsing the menu. The tavern was lively, filled with hunters engaged in animated conversations. One hunter's voice cut through the din. "Hey, did you hear? A new S-rank hunter just joined the Hunters Supreme Council." "Yeah, I heard. Must be nice to be an S-rank hunter, right? Money, fame, beautiful women, they get everything they want," another hunter replied, his voice tinged with envy. "Yeah. Will we ever be able to become S-rank hunters one day?" the first hunter mused, a dreamy look in his eyes. Ethan listened, feeling a surge of determination. While he was far from reaching S-rank himself, their conversation reminded him of his own ambitions. He turned his attention back to his meal, contemplating his next move. For all. Just then, a tall girl with fiery red hair approached him. "Hey Blackie, can I sit here?" Cough. Cough. Ethan nearly choked on his wine. "What did you say?" "Who is Blackie here?" he asked, locking eyes with her. Her fiery red eyes were captivating, burning with intensity and drawing him in. They were mesmerizing, unlike anything he had seen before. The girl, with a mischievous grin, replied, "Who else, you of course. You have black hair, right? So, you're Blackie." Ethan raised an eyebrow. This girl is something else. Directly insulting my favorite black hair? She's got some guts. He decided to use appraisal to gauge her strength, then deal with her accordingly. Name, Lenora Emberian. Age, 15. Level, 14. Affiliation, Arcadia Hunters Guild, Fire Crow Clan. Impressed by her background and youth, Ethan realized he should handle the situation with peace. "Haha, sure, why not," he replied with a harmless smile. He need to cope with it. Who knows, her protectors may be hiding nearby. Lenora cheerfully took a seat beside him, drawing curious glances from the other patrons. She ordered several dishes and wine, observing Ethan with interest. He avoided meeting her gaze directly, uncomfortable with the tingling sensation her eyes invoked and keen to avoid any misunderstanding. She had the snake-like charming eyes like a Medusa. The silence between them grew awkward, prompting Lenora to break it. "What a bore. Hey, Blackie, why are you silent? Or are you upset because I called you by this name? Ethan looked up in confusion. Who wouldn't be upset when you call him by a stupid name? Blackie? Am I some kind of dog or something? He took a deep breath to steady himself. It's not that. I just wasn't expecting such a direct nickname by an unfamiliar person on top of that. Lenora grinned and leaned forward. Well, you better get used to it. I have a feeling we'll be seeing a lot of each other. Her confidence was both intimidating and intriguing. So, Lenora, why did you want to sit here? There seems to be a lot empty tables nearby. Ethan asked, casting a suspicious glance at her. Huh. Lenora's eyebrows rose in surprise. How did you know my name? Ethan began to sweat, realizing his slip of the tongue. I just heard people's whispers about you. That's how I got to know your name. His excuse seemed plausible. Lenora shrugged, taking a sip of her wine in an elegant manner. I'm just looking for some fun and a good meal. You seemed interesting, so I thought I'd join you. Ethan raised an eyebrow. Interesting? How so? Lenora's eyes sparkled with mischief. Let's just say, I have a knack for spotting potential. And you have potential. Ethan felt a mix of flattery and suspicion. Thanks, I guess. But potential for what exactly? Her snake-like eyes twinkled with playful glint and intrigue. You'll find out soon enough. Just be ready. Their conversation continued with light banter and playful teasing. He felt interesting to talk to her, and they got to know each other better as the night wore on. Eventually, Ethan made his way back to his inn, reflecting on the unexpected encounter and the evening's events. The next morning, after finishing his breakfast, Ethan was having a casual chat with Aunt Greta in her cozy kitchen. The aroma of freshly baked bread and herbs filled the air, making it the perfect setting for a relaxed morning. Their conversation flowed effortlessly, filled with light-hearted stories and laughter. Suddenly, the door creaked open, and an unexpected visitor entered. Hi, Blackie. It was Lenora, the red-haired girl from the previous day. She was accompanied by a few companions, this time 2 boys and 2 girls, all around her age. Ethan raised his eyebrows in surprise. Why are you here? And don't call me by that name again, please. Sure, Blackie. Lenora replied with a mischievous glint in her eyes and a soft smile playing on her lips. Ethan shook his head helplessly. Her persistence was both annoying and oddly endearing. Blackie, we are going on a dungeon raid. Do you want to join our party? Lenora revealed her purpose with an enthusiastic attitude, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Surprised, Ethan asked, So, you're here to invite me to your party? Yep, she nodded eagerly. But why me? Ethan couldn't help but feel a mix of curiosity and suspicion. Because I know you're special, a perfect fit for our party, she said mysteriously, her tone implying she knew more than she was letting on. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. Does she know about my special abilities? But how is this even possible? He shook his head, dismissing the notion. Calming his racing heart, he asked, Where are you planning to raid, Lenora? It's an ear-ranked dungeon, Rock Giant's Cave, she revealed with a reassuring smile. But don't worry about the difficulty. We will be clearing it with our party after all. Her confidence was infectious, and Ethan found himself considering the offer more seriously. It wouldn't hurt to go with them, especially since he was stuck in a minor bottleneck. Alright, introduce me to your friends, Ethan said, deciding to give her proposal a chance. Lenora's smile widened as she turned to her companions. This is Cedric, she pointed to a tall boy with a lean build, his brown hair falling into his sharp green eyes. He nodded at Ethan with a reserved smile. He's our strategic leader and has a knack for traps. Nice to meet you, Cedric said, his voice calm and measured. Lenora had been talking about you a lot. And this is Iris, Lenora continued, gesturing to a girl with short, curly black hair and piercing blue eyes. She's our healer and enhancer. Iris gave Ethan a warm smile. I look forward to working with you, she said, her tone kind and welcoming. Next, we have Marcus, Lenora pointed to a muscular boy with a confident grin, his dark skin gleaming in the morning light. He's our frontline warrior, always ready to charge into battle. Marcus simply nodded, not looking very enthusiastic. And finally, this is Yona, Lenora indicated a slender girl with long, velvet hair and striking violet eyes. She's our scout and archer, with an eye for detail and a steady aim. Yana nodded at Ethan, her expression serious but respectful. Nice to meet you, she said simply. Alright, Ethan said, feeling a sense of camaraderie building. When do we start? He decided to give it a chance. Tomorrow at dawn, Lenora replied. We'll meet at the town gate. Make sure to bring all your gear and be ready for an adventure. As they left, Ethan couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and nervousness. This could be the start of something significant, a chance to prove himself and uncover more about his abilities. And perhaps, he would find out just what Lenora knew about him. Perhaps his bottleneck would be resolved by them. Turning back to Aunt Greta, who had been silently observing the whole exchange, he found her giving him a surprised smile. Ethan, isn't she the princess of the Fire Crow clan? How did you two meet? She asked curiously. I just met her at the tavern yesterday and got to know each other by chance, Ethan replied casually. Oh, by chance, you say? Although she remained suspicious of his claim, she wished him good luck regardless. Then, looks like you're about to embark on quite the journey, Ethan. Just remember to stay safe and trust in yourself. Don't trust others so easily. Ethan nodded, feeling a renewed sense of determination. I will, Aunt Greta. I will. Afterwards, he went to the blacksmith's shop to buy more iron swords to upgrade his equipment further. Young man, you again? How many swords do you want this time? The old dwarven blacksmith asked, observing him with curious glances. I need 10, Ethan replied firmly. T10? That's a lot, young man. Are you buying them for your party or something? You could say that, Ethan shrugged. Alright then, wait here for a moment, right angle row. Theta. The short blacksmith went to a back room and soon returned with 10 sharp iron swords. After paying 100 silver coins, Ethan went into an alleyway to synthesize the swords. Synthesize. 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 Ding. Congratulations. Your synthesis was successful. Congratulations. Your synthesis was successful. Congratulations. Congratulations. Appraisal. Titanium runic sword, sentient. Metal grade, D. Attack power, 45. Durability, 135. Special effects, stun. The sword had received an impressive upgrade. Its blade vibrated with each motion, as if it could cut through anything effortlessly. It had become a D-grade titanium sword, a highly valuable weapon worth nearly 5,000 silver coins. Such an amount of money was significant in this world, a normal family could live comfortably on that sum for an extended period. Because of this, not everyone could afford high-quality equipment like this, and not everyone had Ethan's special ability. Additionally, the sword had gained a special effect, stun. It could now stun enemies at critical moments, although its activation was random. Ethan then checked his status. Status. Name, Angus Degaro, Ethan Smith. Occupation, hunter. Race, human. Level, 4. Class, none. Age, 18. Strength, 17. Agility, 15. Defense, 18. Mana, 120. Attribute points, 0. Skills. Active, Swift Sword Strike 3, F, Fire Toad's Leap 2, F, Fire Toad's Breath, F, Flame Serpent's Breath, F. Passive, Fire Toad's Resilience, F, Fire Serpent's Digestion, F, Fire Serpent's Resistance. Unique skills, Appraisal, Basic, Skill Absorption, Mythic, Universal Synthesis, Ultimate. Equipments, Titanium Runic Sword, D. Ethan muttered to himself, I really should have bought armor. My defense would be so much better. He sighed, looking at his depleted finances. But no, I had to blow all my money on these swords. Now I'm dirt poor again. With the 40 silver coins I have left, I can't even afford a decent F-grade armor. Despite his financial setback, he was determined not to back down. Ready for another dungeon raid, Ethan headed back to the Fire Toad's den, resolute to grind and grow stronger. As soon as Ethan stepped onto the first floor, a fire toad lunged at him ferociously as usual. Slice. Ethan casually waved his sword, slicing the toad in half. With indifference, he continued deeper into the dungeon. These low-level toads were no match for him now. He couldn't even extract skills from them, it would be a waste of limited mana to cast skill absorption on such weak creatures with low chances. After another round of grinding, Ethan reached the 7th floor, the floor that had been his bottleneck yesterday. But today was different. He had his titanium runic sword with him. With its nearly 45 attack power, combined with his 17 points of strength, he wielded nearly 62 points of raw power. Ethan's confidence soared. The titanium runic sword was a game-changer. Its blade was inscribed with intricate runes that glowed faintly, promising enhanced damage and precision. The weight of the sword felt perfectly balanced in his hands, a seamless extension of his own strength. The 7th floor, a labyrinth of molten rock and flickering shadows, stretched out before him. The oppressive heat and the distant roars of unseen creatures would have intimidated any lesser warrior. But Ethan was prepared. With each step, he felt the power of his weapon thrumming through him. He was ready to face whatever came his way, determined to break through the barriers that had held him back yesterday. Today, he would conquer the 7th floor. His passive skills were in effect, shielding him from the intense heat. While other hunters relied on fire affinity potions to endure these conditions, Ethan relied on his skills alone. Although some hunters used a similar method, they needed to be wealthy to do that. The oppressive heat that radiated from the molten rock and the flickering shadows of the 7th floor had little impact on Ethan. Thanks to his passive skills, he remained cool and composed, his body adapting effortlessly to the harsh environment. The runes on his titanium runic sword glowed brighter, resonating with the ambient energy of the dungeon. Croak! Hiss! Ethan found himself confronted by two large creatures, a fire toad and a flame serpent. They moved in perfect sync, launching their breath attacks simultaneously. He used Fire Toad's Leap to evade their onslaught, though the edges of the fiery blasts still singed him. Their power was unmistakable, far greater than the lesser creatures he had faced before. His passive skills shielded him from the worst of the heat, but he could still feel the sting of their combined assault. Gritting his teeth, Ethan sprang into action. He exhaled Fire Serpent's breath, creating a fiery barrier that momentarily separated the two creatures. Seizing the opportunity, he landed beside the fire toad, his titanium runic sword ready. Slice! With a swift, decisive motion, he severed the fire toad's head. Dark green blood gushed from the wound, pooling around the lifeless body in a sickening mess. Right angle epsilon rho dot. Hiss! The flame serpent, enraged by the death of its companion, charged at Ethan with bared fangs. Ethan sidestepped its lunge, narrowly avoiding its snapping jaws. Using the momentum of his dodge, he brought his sword down in a powerful arc. The serpent reared back, its scales shimmering in the fiery light. Ethan pressed his advantage, delivering a series of precise strikes that chipped away at its defenses. The serpent hissed in fury, its movements becoming more erratic as it tried to retaliate. Finally, with one last powerful swing, Ethan cleaved through its neck, ending the battle. The serpent's body thrashed violently before collapsing in a heap. Panting, Ethan surveyed the scene, cautious of any other creatures that might be lurking in the shadows. The 7th floor was not a place to let his guard down. He approached the two dead bodies, eager to use skill absorption on them. Silently, he prayed, "Please give me good skills this time." Ding! Congratulations! Your skill absorption was successful. You have acquired another existing skill, Fire Toad's Leap, F. Ding! Congratulations! Your skill absorption was successful. You have acquired another existing skill, Flame Serpent's Breath, F. I got another existing skill. Looks like it's finally time to try skill synthesis. The skills I gathered should be enough. Ethan muttered, excited to start the process. He quickly checked the description of the Universal Synthesis skill to make sure. Universal Synthesis, this unique ultimate skill allows the user to merge two or more types of matter, energies, or any form of data, including their quintessential forms, to create an evolved version with unique characteristics and effects. The result is often a new entity or force that exhibits enhanced capabilities, unparalleled power, and diverse applications, making the wielder of this skill a master of transformation and creation. Ethan commanded in his mind to synthesize the extra skills, and his whole body shook as if it was rewriting his very soul. He had heard that once a person equips a skill, it embeds directly into their soul. Is this why am I feeling this slight discomfort? But he found it manageable. He awaited eagerly for the good news while taking shelter in a small cave on the 7th floor of the dungeon. Ding! Congratulations! Your skill synthesis was successful. Your new skills. Advanced Fire Toad's Leap, E, a more powerful version of Fire Toad's Leap, allowing for greater distance and speed with enhanced fire resistance. Advanced Fire Serpent's Breath, E, an upgraded form of Flame Serpent's Breath, with increased range and intensity of the flame attack. Oh, ho. 2 E-rank skills. This was just the beginning of what he could achieve with Universal Synthesis. He had yet to learn its full application. Now it was time to find out what would happen when he synthesized 2 different kinds of skills. Would it mutate, or evolve completely? He had a little more than 80 mana left, and it should be enough for synthesis, though he was not entirely sure. First, he decided to check his status, to determine which skills to merge. Status. Name, Angus Degerow, Ethan Smith. Occupation, Hunter. Race, Human. Level, 5. Class, None. Age, 18. Strength, 17. Agility, 15. Defense, 18. Mana, 87/120. Attribute points, 5. Skills. Active, Fire Toad's Leap, E, Fire Serpent's Breath, E, Swift Sword Strike 3, F, Fire Toad's Breath, F. Passive, Fire Toad's Resilience, F, Fire Serpent's Digestion, F, Fire Serpent's Resistance. Unique skills, Appraisal, Basic, Skill Absorption, Mythic, Universal Synthesis, Ultimate. Equipments, Titanium Runic Sword, D. I have leveled up to level 5. Among 5 attribute points, he distributed 3 on Strength and 2 on Agility. He felt his power increased, but he ignored it as he had a more important task at hand. Ethan decided to increase his resistance to fire attacks next. Synthesis skills, Fire Toad's Resilience plus Fire Serpent's Resistance. Ding! Congratulations! Your skill synthesis was successful. Your skills evolved into Blaze Guard, E, Passive. Description, an evolved defensive skill that combines Fire Toad's Resilience and Fire Serpent's Resistance. Effects, Superior Fire Resistance, significantly reduces or nullifies damage from fire-based attacks with a defensive aura. That's an E-rank skill alright. But, I hope it still protect my clothes as well. Casting aside the joke, he noticed it took him 10 mana points to synthesize F-rank skills of different types. Satisfied with the results, Ethan knew he had to push further. His current skills were good, but he needed to maximize his potential before facing the more formidable creatures on the deeper floors. He took a deep breath, feeling the energy coursing through him from the recent skill synthesis. Time to try another combination, he murmured to himself, excitement bubbling up inside him. Square root epsilon dot. Synthesis skills, Fire Toad's Leap, E, plus Fire Serpent's Breath, E. Ethan braced himself for the now familiar sensation of rewriting his very soul, once again. The discomfort was sharper this time, but he gritted his teeth and powered through, knowing the potential reward was worth the pain. Ding! Congratulations! Your skill synthesis was successful. Your skills evolved into Infernal Leap, D. Infernal Leap, D, a potent active skill that combines the agility and fire resistance of Fire Toad's Leap with the destructive power of Flame Serpent's Breath. Allows for long-distance jumps accompanied by a burst of flames that damages enemies on landing. A D-rank skill. This was something out of his expectations. The combination of mobility and offensive power would be invaluable in combat. The thought of leaping into a group of enemies and leaving them scorched was exhilarating to say none the least. Mana, 37/120. Alas! It took nearly 30 points of mana to merge 2 E-rank skills. However, it was worth it, considering he got a D-rank skill in return. With his remaining mana, he was able to synthesis once more. Synthesis skills. Swift Sword Strike, F, plus Fire Toad's Breath, F. Ethan felt the familiar sensation again, but it was getting easier to manage. His anticipation grew as he waited for the notification. Congratulations! Your skill synthesis was successful. Your skills evolved into Azula Sword Strike, E. Azula Sword Strike, an enhanced melee attack that infuses your weapon with fiery energy, causing your strikes to ignite enemies on contact. He couldn't help but grin. This skill would be a game-changer in close combat, adding another layer of lethality to his attacks. With these new skills, he felt more prepared than ever to tackle the dungeon's challenges. He checked his status again to see the updates. Name, Angus Degerow, Ethan Smith. Occupation, hunter. Race, human. Level, 5. Class, none. Age, 18. Strength, 20. Agility, 17. Defense, 18. Mana, 27/120. Attribute points, 0. Skills. Active, Inferno Leap, D, Azula Sword Strike. Passive, Blaze Guard, E, Fire Serpent's Digestion, F. Unique skills, Appraisal, Basic, Skill Absorption, Mythic, Universal Synthesis, Ultimate. Equipments, Titanium Runic Sword, D. His mana had taken a hit from the recent synthesis, but the new skills were worth it. He decided to rest for a bit, allowing his mana to recover before proceeding. After a brief period of recovery, just as he prepared to put his new skills to the test, several imposing fire toads and flame serpents approached him with a malevolent aura. Observing their approach, Ethan couldn't help but reveal a confident grin. "Alright, buddies, I'll start with you first." Standing up with casual assurance, he unleashed Inferno Leap, launching himself into the heart of their group with a resounding boom. The ground beneath them quaked and collapsed, transforming into a small crater upon impact. The creatures, numbering 5 to 6, were thrown back violently by the explosion. They convulsed in pain, blood oozing from their mouths and bodies, before collapsing lifelessly on the scorched cavern floor. Ethan stood amidst the chaos, the air thick with the smell of burnt scales and seared flesh. The aftermath of his devastating attack left him exhilarated, realizing the full extent of his D-rank skill, Inferno Leap. It was completely overpowered. Boom. Boom. Sizzle. The 7th floor was a scene of chaos, with the smell of burning flesh filling the air. Small fiery craters and broken rocks were scattered everywhere, turning the floor into a fiery mess. Ding. Congratulations. You have leveled up. You have received 5 attribute points to distribute freely. Ethan stood among the debris, a relaxed smile on his face. The 20 or so monsters he had just defeated gave him a lot of experience, raising his power to level 6. He quickly distributed the attribute points, adding more to his strength and defense. The 7th floor is clear. Now, to the next one, he muttered as he headed to the staircase leading to the 8th floor. As he descended, he thought about his new D-rank skill and the Azula Sword Strike, eager to use them. When he reached the 8th floor, another group of monsters was waiting for him. He drew his sword, its edge glowing with a blue light. Using the Azula Sword Strike, he felt a rush of power. The blade cut through the air, leaving blue flames behind. The first wave of monsters fell quickly, their bodies turning to ash. Encouraged by his new power, he charged at the remaining monsters. Each strike sent out bursts of blue fire, burning them. The monsters were fierce, but no match for his attacks. Soon, the 8th floor was covered with the charred remains of his enemies. Ethan stood there, breathing heavily but feeling stronger. His eyes were already on the next challenge. 9th floor, cleared. 10th floor, cleared. 11th floor failed. Damn. My mana ran out, he muttered in frustration, surveying the scene of his defeat. I thought I could clear the boss of this dungeon today, but no, my mana just had to be insufficient. He clenched his fists, feeling the sting of failure. He replayed the battle in his mind. His powerful skills had decimated the monsters on the 9th and 10th floors effortlessly. Each strike and spell had been precise, each enemy falling without much resistance. But the 11th floor was different. The monsters were tougher, the battles longer, and his mana reserves dwindled faster than he had anticipated. If this keeps happening, I won't be able to fight to my heart's content, even with powerful skills, he thought, frustration growing. The realization hit him hard, his skills, no matter how powerful, were useless without the mana to fuel them. He needed to find a way to increase his mana reserves. The next time he faced the dungeon boss, he wanted to be ready. He wanted to have enough mana to unleash his full potential and fight without holding back. With this new determination, Ethan knew his next goal was clear. He had to find a way to grow more powerful by increasing his mana. Without mana, all his powerful skills would soon be useless, and his journey would be cut short. When he emerged from the dungeon, it was already the crack of dawn. Unknowingly, he had spent the whole night inside. He was a little addicted to getting stronger quickly, that's how it happened. Boss, look. A group of delinquent hunters suddenly noticed Ethan's expensive sword, their eyes gleaming with greed. They approached him slowly, and the leader deliberately slammed into Ethan while he was distracted. "Hey, watch where you're going, brat." The tall burly leader spat venomously. Ethan furrowed his brows. "Now, what's this drama? There is so much space here, did he think I am a fool or something?" Then he looked at his titanium sword and instantly understood everything clearly. It's really a cliché storyline. So predictable. He sighed. "Sorry. Can you step away from my way now?" Regardless, he said sorry, not to escalate the situation further. He knew with his current strength, he was no match for a single one of them, much less a group of experienced hunters. But it didn't look like they were going to step aside just with a sorry. Their desire was targeted at something else entirely. "Motherfucker, you think a single sorry from you would do the work? Leave your sword as compensation, or you're dead," the leader spat, eyeing the sword with greed. Square root upsilon dot. "Yeah, it's useless to you anyway. Even with that sword, you're just a trash class hunter," one of the underlings chimed in. Ethan understood that they were determined, and he had no options. He had nearly an empty mana reserve. Ethan sighed and handed him the sword. It's not like he couldn't make another one by himself again. It was just a matter of time. Clang. "Here, take it." Ethan threw the sword on the ground. The group of thugs was dumbfounded, they had never seen such an understanding person before. Each time, they had to beat people before they got what they wanted by force. But now, someone handed over their belongings so easily. They found it hard to believe. The leader hurriedly picked up the sword, feeling that Lady Luck had shined on him. "Very good, brat. I like your attitude." He grinned. "If you're so cooperative, then give me the locket from your chest as well." "Huh?" Ethan's frown deepened. These greedy people never learn to be satisfied with what they get. "No, you can't get it. It's not valuable anyway." Ethan couldn't compromise with this one, as this was the only clue to his identity of this body, which seemed extremely ordinary. The leader felt more eager to acquire the treasure, seeing his hesitance to give it away. He thought although it looked ordinary, it must be some kind of hidden treasure. Seeing the growing desire in his eyes, Ethan felt the situation was not so good. "Move your ass, pretty boy. Give it quick." One underling stepped forward to snatch it. However, just as his hand was about to reach Ethan's chest, Ethan gripped his hand tightly. "Didn't I say you can't take it?" Ethan's face was serious and unwavering. "Pa. Motherfew asterisk cur. You're quite stubborn, huh?" The leader slapped Ethan like lightning. Ethan couldn't even see its shadow, dodging was a distant future. Ethan fell on the ground on his head, blood seeping out from his forehead. Blood? Ethan felt the salty taste of blood in his gums. It was not his first time getting slapped, but it did remind him of his childhood struggles. At that time, these types of slaps were really common. As the underling approached with a carefree expression, Ethan stared at him like a predator from the corner of his eyes, acting unconscious. Closer. Closer. Swoosh. As soon as the thug arrived over Ethan to snatch the locket, Ethan took out the thug's sword from his waist and pierced the thug's stomach while activating Azula sword strike, using the last bit of his mana. Arg. The thug, momentarily stunned, then saw his own sword, ablaze with fiery flames, piercing through his body from front to back. In the next moment, his entire body ignited like a torch, consumed by a fierce blaze. Ah! His piercing scream echoed throughout the vicinity. For a moment, the others watched in stunned silence, struggling to process the scene before them. The sudden shift from a meek and innocent boy to sheer brutality was truly mind-boggling. Coming to their senses, they looked for the culprit and found that the boy had already run away. They could see his silhouette in the distance. "Catch him," the leader shouted, surging forward with astonishing agility. "Ah, shit," Ethan muttered, glancing back only to see the leader rapidly closing the distance between them. What is this guy's rank actually? Ethan's mind raced, but there was no time to cast appraisal. He could only rely on his instincts. From what he understood, not even an E-rank hunter should be able to move like that, with such speed and precision. The realization sent a chill down his spine, but there was no time to dwell on it. Survival was all that mattered now. Ethan darted through the some dense and tall bushes, his heart pounding from both exertion and adrenaline. The leader's angry shouts echoed behind him, spurring him to push harder. The dense forest seemed to blur around him as he focused on finding a place to hide. He finally spotted a large tree with thick foliage and quickly made his way toward it. Breathlessly, he squeezed himself behind the tree trunk, hoping the thick canopy would obscure him from view. As he tried to steady his breathing, he could hear the rustling of the long leaves and the occasional shout of the leader growing closer. The seconds dragged on, feeling like hours. Ethan's body ached from the earlier fight, and his mana reserves were critically low. He could barely focus on his surroundings as he waited in the shadows, trying to make himself as inconspicuous as possible. The leader's voice rang out, full of frustration. He couldn't have gone that far. Go, spread out and find him, he said to his underlings. Okay, boss. They all spread out in different directions. Ethan held his breath as the sounds of footsteps and voices circled the area. He already guessed the thug leader must be a D-rank hunter, a formidable opponent with far more experience than he had. Despite his best efforts to stay hidden, Ethan could feel the leader's presence growing nearer. The man was real persistent, his footsteps methodical and deliberate as he searched for Ethan. After what felt like an eternity, the leader's voice cut through the air again. Haha, I know you're here, brat. If you come out on your own, and I will give you a quick death. His expression was arrogant, as if victory was already in his grasp. Ethan's heart sank as he realized that the leader might have picked up on his scent or something. Well, anything could be possible. Does this mean he was nowhere safe now? He clenched his teeth, trying to remain calm as much as possible. The bushes rustled violently as the leader and his underlings pushed through, searching every nook and cranny. Ethan could hear their frustrated murmurs and the occasional snapping of twigs underfoot. Suddenly, the leader's voice grew louder, more determined. He's behind this tree. I can feel it. Go, and check it out, he said to his underlings, plastered with a manic grin, as he pointed towards Ethan's location. Ethan's pulse quickened. He understood he couldn't stay hidden forever. The leader and his underlings' footsteps drew closer, and Ethan prepared himself for a fight, despite his weakened state. He gripped the borrowed sword tightly, ready to make a last-ditch effort. The leader emerged from the leaves, his eyes narrowing as he spotted Ethan. A cruel smile twisted his lips. Hee, found you, brat. Square root right angle dot. Ethan tired calm his nerves, but he was clearly failing to do so, because of the radiating strong malicious aura from the leader. The leader chuckled darkly. You're dead, brat. Before Ethan could react, the leader's underlings surged forward, their eyes filled with malicious glee. They grabbed Ethan roughly, their hands closing around his arms and legs. Despite his struggles, the thugs were too strong, and Ethan was quickly subdued. Let me go, and I will give another sword like this. Ethan shouted, but his cries were met with laughter. The leader stepped forward, his expression a mix of satisfaction and contempt. Brat, I don't care about your swords anymore. You thought you could just walk away after killing one of my underlings? You're going to pay for what you did, he said menacingly. With brutal efficiency, the thugs dragged Ethan back through the forest, arriving at the same place where the thug was killed by Ethan. By the time they arrived, Ethan was already exhausted, feeling the pain in his body. The leader tossed Ethan onto the ground, his eyes flashing with a dangerous light. This is where your little journey ends. We're going to make pay the same way you did to my underling. By burning you alive beside him. The underlings were nearly moved to tears, totally impressed by how much their boss had cared for them. Ethan's head throbbed with pain, and he struggled to get up, but the thugs were merciless. They held him down, their grip unyielding. The leader loomed over him, his expression menacing. You should have just given us the locket when we asked, the leader sneered, his voice dripping with malice. Now you'll pay the price. Ethan could only glare at him, the weight of helplessness pressing down on him like a vice. If only he had the power to turn the situation around. But what could he do? He had just reincarnated into this world a few days ago, and now he was facing this brutal reality. The unfairness of it all gnawed at him, frustration boiling beneath the surface. The leader's smile twisted into a scowl. Hey, what are you glaring at? He struck Ethan hard across the face, the force of the slap echoing through the air. Brat, are you still thinking about fighting back? If that's the case, we'll make sure you're in no condition to even try. After that, you'll burn alive. Without hesitation, the leader's underlings descended upon Ethan, beating him mercilessly. Each blow landed with a sickening thud, sending shockwaves of pain through his body. Ethan struggled to stay conscious, the agony threatening to overwhelm him. Is this how it ends? He wondered, the thought flickering in his mind like a dying flame. Yet, even as they pummeled him, Ethan refused to whimper. He endured the beating in silence, his resolve unbroken. Perhaps he was awaiting the release of death, or maybe, deep down, he still clung to a faint hope. Ethan lay on the ground, his body aching from the relentless beating. The leader of the hunters grinned down at him, his eyes glinting with satisfaction. Ethan's mind raced, trying to find a way out of this dire situation. Enjoying your last moments, kid, the leader sneered, twirling the sword in his hand. His men gathered around, forming a circle of malevolent intent. Boss, let's finish him off quick. We don't want any trouble, one of the underlings urged, glancing nervously around the place. The leader chuckled. Oh, we'll finish him, but not before I have a little fun. This brat needs to learn his place. Pain coursed through Ethan's body, but he couldn't afford to give up. Summoning every ounce of strength, he struggled to his feet, his vision blurry but determined. He needed a plan, and he needed it fast. Hey, look at that. The kid still got some fight left in him, another underling jeered, clearly enjoying his struggle. The leader stepped closer, his face inches from Ethan's. You still think you can take us all on, boy? You're out of your league. Desperation fueled Ethan's resolve. He had to distract them, create an opening. His mind raced, and then it hit him his last resort. Boss, why waste time on him? We got what we came for, a third hunter said urgently. The underling felt their boss was just wasting his time here. He glanced around nervously, to see if any guards nearby. Ignoring his men, the leader focused on Ethan, his grin widening. What's the matter, brat? No strength left? Ethan met his gaze, his voice steady, despite the pain. You're right. I'm out of my league. But you know what? You're making a big mistake. The leader of the thugs laughed, a harsh, grating sound. And what's that? You underestimate me. What's going on here? Just as Ethan was about to use his last resort, a familiar voice amidst the chaos halted his desperate act, completely. Arya hurriedly stepped forward, her long silvery hair waving amidst the morning dew. But her pretty face filled with rare anxiousness. The voice brought Ethan hope, as if it was saying all hope wasn't lost yet. Why are you hitting him? Her expression darkened upon seeing his bloody, battered, and bruised figure. She hurriedly pulled Ethan from the ground, ensuring his safety first by feeding him a few healing potions as soon as possible. Ethan gulped it down with gratitude within her soft embrace. Boss. The hunters began to eye each other with nervousness. They recognized Arya, the popular C-rank hunter. Although known for her kindness and friendly behavior, she was a true killing machine inside. If they accidentally angered her too much, they wouldn't know how they would die themselves. They were at most level 20 or so, while Arya was level 40 or above. On top of that, she had assassination class skills with her. Truly a deadly combination. Arya took out her shiny dagger, a highly ranked weapon, probably C rank or above, and stared at the delinquent hunters with hostility. Explain everything truthfully, otherwise no mercy will be shown upon you, she threatened, her voice cold and unwavering. The hunters froze, their bravado evaporating in the face of her deadly seriousness. One of them, stammering, began to speak. We were just teaching him a lesson. He attacked us first. Arya's eyes narrowed, the dagger glinting menacingly in her hand. And what provoked that attack? Tell me the truth, otherwise no one will be spared. The leader of the group, swallowing hard, took a step forward. He got mad because we asked for his locket politely. It was just for fun, but he killed one of our comrades, see. He is really vicious. He said nervously and pointed to the dead body lying around, giving an appropriate made-up excuse. Zydot. Without caring who it was, Arya's grip tightened on the dagger. Nonsense. Do you think I am blind? She shouted, her pretty face flushed red in anger. The hunters exchanged nervous glances, realizing they were in deeper trouble than they had thought. Please, we didn't mean any harm, another hunter pleaded. We were just trying to rob him. But, he killed our comrade first. He could be put to the jail for this. Please let us go, and we won't speak a word outside. Their leader also nodded like chicken pecking at rice, while inwardly thanking his underlings for such a quick thinking. Arya finally understood the whole situation, but her anger still didn't subsided. No one leaves unscathed after harming her friends. Alright, you can only leave here alive after separating one arm each from your body. Not that cruel of a punishment, you know, she replied coldly. And lastly, never tell about this murder to anyone else. The delinquent hunters trembled, their bravado shattered after hearing the cruel punishment. No, please don't, they pleaded, desperation etching their faces. Swish. Swish. Silvery shadows blurred past, and their left arms fell to the ground alongside their leaders, one after another. Blood pooled, staining the earth crimson. Their screams echoed throughout the vicinity. Ah! My hand! The delinquents screamed, clutching their bloody shoulders. Arya's voice sliced through their misery. Silence! Get out of here before I kill you all. Her annoyance was palpable, her eyes flashing with impatience. Hesitant but sensing the sincerity in her threat, the hunters stumbled away, cradling their maimed hands. They dared not look back. The leader seethed with rage. At the end of the day, he had lost his arm instead of gaining the coveted sword. His unwillingness burned in his eyes as he glared at them before disappearing into the dense fog, holding onto his severed shoulder. Arya sheathed her dagger, her expression softening. Are you all right, Ethan? Her transformation from merciless killer to concerned friend was astonishing. Ethan nodded, gradually opening his eyes. The effect of the healing potions became apparent. Thank you, Arya. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't shown up, he said, his voice strained because of lingering pain. She smiled gently, helping him to his feet. Let's get you somewhere safe. You need to rest and recover. Ethan nodded and tried to reach out to the dead hunter's body to test something important. But he was in too much pain to move, so he asked Arya to lead him there. Arya remained silent, misunderstanding his actions as remorse for killing a human for the first time. Though he did feel a twinge of guilt, he knew the hunter deserved it. Ethan had killed so many monsters that this felt no different. Arya helped him to the dead hunter's body, her expression a mix of concern and curiosity. Don't feel so bad, Ethan. It happens sometimes, she said gently. I know, he replied, focusing on the task at hand. Ethan placed his hand on the dead hunter's body and activated skill absorption, hoping to see if he could gain anything useful. He had a minuscule amount of mana, which was enough to cast skill absorption. He could never miss the opportunity to be powerful after this traumatic experience in his life. Ding. Your skill absorption was successful. Congratulations. You have acquired a new active skill, Muscles Enhancement, E. Muscles Enhancement, E increases users' overall physical toughness and power by 2 times upon activation. Ethan felt a rush of information flooding his mind, the new skill integrating itself seamlessly into his soul. It was a useful ability, enhancing his physical capability and giving him an edge in combat. Arya watched with a mix of awe and confusion. What are you doing, Ethan? Nothing. Could you please help me reach my place? Ethan, drink this. It's a C-tier healing potion. It'll help your wounds heal faster, Arya said, her voice gentle yet urgent. She handed him a small vial, its liquid shimmering with a faint blue glow. The cost of such potions was exorbitant, and Ethan couldn't help but feel grateful for Arya's generosity. They were gathered in Ethan's cramped quarters, the place he called home, within the bustling inn. Aunt Greta stood nearby, her expression a mix of concern and indignation. Her daughter, Emily, hovered at her side, wide-eyed and curious. How cruel! Innkeeper Greta exclaimed, her voice filled with sympathy. I can't believe they beat you up like this. It's abominable. Her gaze shifted from Ethan to Arya, as if seeking answers or perhaps reassurance. Emily looked at Ethan's bloody wounds, hiding at the corner of her mother's clothes. Big brother, get well soon, she said softly. Ethan smiled at her, despite the agony. Thanks to Arya, his wounds were healing fast. It was possible that these wounds might be healed by the end of the day. Arya, will Ethan be all right? Aunt Greta's worry spilled over. Yes, he will be all right. There's no need to worry, Arya assured with a smile. I am worried about something else, Arya said, her expression shifting to deep contemplation. Ethan has killed a hunter inside the city, and this could lead to serious consequences. Although I threatened them not to reveal about the killing outside, who knows what happens next. What if they don't keep their promise? Then what? We might need to go for another long trail. And, you know how strict the rules are about killing a human inside the city. On top of that, in our case, it was a hunter. The city lord doesn't take these kinds of cases kindly. He is very strict in this regard, Arya added seriously. As Ethan frowned, contemplating the worst-case scenario, Aunt Greta and Emily's expressions shifted to concern. Within this time, they had grown close, considering themselves not just friends, but almost like family. Their worried faces weighed on him, and guilt settled in. I'm truly sorry, Arya, Aunt Greta, and Emily, he confessed, his voice laced with newfound emotion. I hate that you're all concerned about a nobody like me. Arya's smile was reassuring. Ethan, no need to apologize. We haven't been able to help you yet. Yes, Ethan. Don't think you're just a stranger to us. We are with you, Aunt Greta added kindly, revealing her motherly nature. Yes, just like Aunt said, don't dwell on it too much. I will find a way to get help from my clan, Arya replied with a smile. Ethan's emotions swirled as he shook his head, rejecting Arya's offer. No, Arya, you don't need to involve your family any further. You've already done so much. Epsilon. The weight of her favors and kindness already felt heavy on his shoulders. He couldn't accept more of this, otherwise, he would be too reliant on Arya. That's why he said that. However, Arya mistook it for something else entirely. Arya's expression shifted to anger. Why, Ethan? Don't you consider me a friend? The sudden transformation of her expression caught Ethan off guard. No, it's not like that. It's just. He tried to explain, but her words cut him off. Fine, she huffed, her frustration evident. You don't need my help? I won't talk to you again. Goodbye. With that, she stormed out of the room. Exasperated, Ethan called out, Wait, Arya. I didn't mean it like that. But his words fell on deaf ears as she left, leaving him with regret. He slumped on the bed helplessly. Aunt Greta and Emily observed the quarrel with amusement. Girls are like this, Ethan, Aunt Greta said, her tone amused. Sometimes you have to give in to them a little. Emily remained silent, recognizing that the topic belonged to the adult world. Still, her curiosity lingered. Arya walked through the night streets, her figure blending with the darkness. She couldn't help but pout angrily. Humph. Don't get your family involved in this. What high and mighty words. If I hadn't been there in the forest to help him, where would he have been now? Anger surged within her, questioning whether their friendship was merely a facade. Unfamiliar emotions churned inside her, leaving her frustrated. Was I too harsh? Arya regretted her words a little after a while. Sigh. Whatever. I'll go ask my father for help. I can't leave him alone in danger, can I? Although I don't know if he sees me as a friend or a benefactor, I consider him a friend regardless. And a true friend always helps each other, she murmured, recalling her mother's words. Her kind personality was the reflection of her mother's teachings, while her merciless personality result of her clan's teachings. As she hurried home, Arya couldn't shake the thought, if she had killed those delinquent hunters earlier, this mess wouldn't have happened. She could have buried them underground, and nobody would have noticed. Problem solved. Yet, something held her back from revealing her cruel side to Ethan. What are these emotions I'm feeling? Arya asked herself, seemingly lost in confusion. In the afternoon, just as Ethan had recovered from his wounds, a group of knights burst into his room with a thunderous sound, collapsing the door. The wood splintered, and dust filled the air, making it hard to breathe. Their armor clanked as they advanced, their boots leaving muddy prints on the floor. The leading knight, a stern-faced man with a scar across his cheek, pointed his sword at Ethan. Murderer, he barked, get down. You're charged with killing innocent civilians. Don't resist. All the knights had drawn their swords, the tips of the blades shining with cruel light. Their expressions were grim, as if he were some kind of heinous criminal. Ethan glanced around, bewildered. When had he murdered civilians? That was utter nonsense. There must be some conspiracy involved. Nonetheless, for now, he complied, lowering himself to the ground. The cold stone floor pressed against his knees, and he felt the weight of their judgment. These weren't ordinary knights, they were high-level hunters, skilled in combat and relentless in their pursuit of justice. Aunt Greta was also behind them. The scene unfolded like a twisted plot. Aunt Greta's desperate pleas fell on deaf ears as the knights remained resolute. Their cold eyes bore into Ethan, and he wondered how he'd become the target of such wrath. The strange belt they used for handcuffs puzzled him. Why not regular metal cuffs? But then it hit him, the belt suppressed his ability to wield mana. He was completely trapped, powerless. They dragged him out of his room, the rough stone floor scraping against his knees. The cage they threw him into felt like a coffin, its iron bars closing in around him. As they moved through the streets, curious onlookers watched, their expressions a mix of fascination and disdain. Rotten tomatoes and rocks flew his way, each impact a reminder of his supposed crimes. Ethan kept his head low, avoiding eye contact, while his mind raced. How had he ended up here? His foolishness, perhaps he should have accepted Aria's help earlier. Now, as the prison loomed ahead, he regretted that decision. The imposing prison loomed before him, its massive walls stretching in all directions. The sheer size of the place, over 5,000 square meters, left him awestruck. It was a fortress designed to contain the most dangerous of criminals. As Ethan stepped through the prison gate, his belongings were swiftly confiscated. Well, when he said belongings, he really meant his titanium sword, the one thing they deemed too dangerous to allow. At least they let him keep his clothes. He half expected them to force him into some scratchy prison uniform. But there was no time for wardrobe complaints. The guards hustled him into a dim cellar, their laughter echoing off the cold stone walls. "Now, rot in here, you vile murderer," one of them sneered, the sound dripping with malice. They reveled in his misfortune. The cellar was completely dark, with no means of perception. Is this how a real prison looks like? He wondered. "Hello, anybody here?" he shouted to see if anyone was inside the cellar other than him. The dim cellar seemed to close in around him as he shouted into the darkness, hoping for a response. And responded did a venomous, angry voice that cut through the air like a blade. "Hey, mother asterisk cur. Why are you being a shouting ass? We're all here, stupid. Now shut the hell up, or I'll send you straight to hell." The words reverberated off the stone walls, and Ethan shrank back, realizing he was far from alone. These weren't just ordinary prisoners, they sounded vile and vicious. Ethan surveyed his surroundings, seeking a corner away from the menacing voices. As he settled down, relief washed over him. They hadn't tried anything funny with him yet. Upsilon. But then, a new voice, closer this time, startled him. "Hey, boy, why are you here? What crime offense did you commit?" The question hung in the air, leaving him startled. "Who is there?" "Hee, relax, boy. I am your neighbor." A chuckle was followed by a creepy smile. The chuckle from his neighbor echoed in the dim cellar, and Ethan squinted to make out his features. A skinny old man, shirtless, with a face etched by time and hardship. "So tell me," he probed, "what's your case?" Ethan hesitated, then decided to share. "I killed a robber for protecting what belongs to mine." "What's it to you, old man?" His eyes glinted, and he leaned in. "Oh, nothing. But your work was justifiable, not like some disgusting rapists here." He gestured toward the other prisoners, their shadows dancing on the walls. "Be careful of them, they're either real criminals with twisted morality." They hadn't even spared the kids from their rotten grasps. "Disgusting. I understand. But why are you here, old man?" Ethan asked, curious to know the answer. The old man came close and said, creepily, "Because I ate people." He revealed his bloody teeth. The old man's revelation hit Ethan like a punch to the gut. "Because I ate people." His bloody teeth gleamed in the dim light, and Ethan's mind recoiled at the thought. "Eating humans," he stammered, his stomach churning. The mere possibility of such an act made him want to retch, but he forced the nausea down. Just moments ago, Ethan thought the old man must be some kind saint from his righteous speech, but now his true nature was revealed as he unleashed a menacing aura, making Ethan question everything he had assumed about him. Hee. The old man's laughter grated on Ethan's nerves, as if he found his discomfort amusing. But then, a deeper voice cut through the tension. "Hey, you old coot, why are you laughing again? Don't you want us to have some peace in here?" Annoyance dripped from his words. His underlings chimed in, their voices hushed. "Boss, don't provoke that old man. He was doing some strange stuff ever since he was transferred here. He's really creepy." The boss's anger flared. "Creepy? Creepy my ass. Are we going to be scared of an old man now? We haven't fallen that low yet. Old coot, he hissed, if I ever hear you making noise, I'll silence you forever. The old man's smile didn't wane, instead, it grew more sinister. His aura sent shivers down Ethan's spine. The night dragged on, and no help arrived. Regret gnawed at him. He should have accepted Arya's offer. But now, alone in this cell, he wondered if she'd ever come to his aid. Sighing, he realized pride had led him astray. Perhaps it was time to swallow that pride and seek help, even from unlikely sources. Early the next morning, the prisoners were given their breakfast, dried rice balls and a dubious water that smelled faintly of feces. As soon as Ethan saw the state of the food, he felt a wave of nausea. Damn, who the hell would eat these things? The sight alone was enough to make him vomit, expelling the contents of his stomach onto the ground. Despite his reaction, the others around him seemed unfazed. They ate with a fervor that suggested they hadn't had a decent meal in days. Some even reached over to snatch Ethan's portion, stuffing their mouths with his share of the unappetizing food. Hey, you bastards, why are you snatching this young man's food? The skinny old man barked at the group, his voice a sharp edge of indignation. He looked gaunt and worn, but his spirit was evidently undiminished as he stood up for Ethan. Ethan was touched by his gesture, though he didn't need the food himself. The old man's defense of his dignity was something he truly appreciated. He gave him a small nod in gratitude but chose to remain silent. The food was hardly worth fighting over, and the old man's act of goodwill was a rare and valuable gesture in their current circumstances. The old man was surely an odd individual. Despite his menacing nature, he had a lot of kindness for a person he had just known. Ethan couldn't believe he was the same person who had eaten people after seeing this. What is the story of this old man? Why did he eat people? The leader of the group sneered, clearly unfazed. What's this got to do with you, old man? Do you want to get *Ket up in the ass? Heh, boss, who will *K his old skinny ass? Where's the fun in that? The group of rapists erupted in cruel laughter, their jeers filling the air like venomous whispers. You. The old man's face turned a deep crimson with anger. His eyes, once an ordinary shade, began to glow an eerie red, reminiscent of a vampire's. The transformation was startling. Ethan watched with growing interest, his curiosity piqued by the sudden change in the old man's demeanor. Who was this old man, and what kind of power did he possess? Unfortunately, Ethan's ability to use appraisal was restricted due to his sealed mana, leaving him with only speculation. As abruptly as it had started, the red glow in the old man's eyes faded. He stood there, visibly shaking with a mix of fury and exertion, his breathing heavy. After a moment of regaining his composure, he moved to Ethan's side, his anger still simmering beneath the surface. He was clearly agitated, but his presence offered a strange comfort. Despite the bleakness of their situation, Ethan found the old man very admirable. He didn't understand what circumstances could have led him to eat human flesh and get trapped in this cell. Everything fell into an eerie silence after the old man's outburst, with the only sounds being the occasional heavy breathing from the criminals, who had slumped into a deep, unnatural sleep. The stillness of the room felt oppressive, amplifying the tension that hung in the air. The old man's expression shifted from rage to a sinister grin. He approached Ethan cautiously, his movements slow and deliberate, as if he were afraid of disturbing the slumbering criminals. Leaning in close, he whispered, "Hey, boy, do you want to flee from here with me?" Ethan blinked in astonishment. The thought of escaping had never occurred to him. Where would they go after escaping? The fear of being hunted, of living as wanted fugitives, made the idea seem far-fetched and unsettling. Flee? How? What about these mana-sealing belts? Ethan asked, his curiosity outweighing his apprehension. From where Ethan stood, it seemed impossible to break free. Their physical strength was insufficient to make even a dent in the heavy metal door that sealed them in. The old man's grin widened, his eyes gleaming with a dark, confident light. You don't have to worry about that. Just be prepared to flee after I break the door. I've been preparing to break free from this prison for a while now. Every preparation is complete. You're lucky to have me here, boy. His words left Ethan conflicted. On one hand, the prospect of escaping was tempting. On the other hand, the risk of capture and the unknowns that lay beyond these walls filled him with dread. If they were caught, would they face execution or worse? The anxiety gnawed at Ethan, but the old man's confidence was oddly reassuring. square root right angle epsilon rho yin near dot. The old man seemed to sense Ethan's trepidation. His smile softened, and he said, "Just wait for my signal." Without waiting for Ethan's response, the old man pulled out a small vial of red liquid from a hidden pocket in his tattered robes. The vial itself was unremarkable in appearance, but the liquid inside shimmered with an ominous red glow, casting eerie reflections on the old man's face. He drank the entire contents of the vial in one swift motion, his eyes narrowing as the liquid disappeared down his throat. Almost immediately, he began to mutter incantations in a language that sounded ancient and alien. If there were any experts present, they would have recognized it as the language of demons, an unsettling realization that Ethan was entirely unaware of at that moment. As the old man chanted, a transformation took place. His frail, wiry frame began to swell with muscle, his once weak appearance now giving way to a formidable figure. The change was both awe-inspiring and horrifying. He seemed to draw power from the vial, his aura radiating a sinister, dark energy. Moving with newfound strength, the old man approached the rapists who were still lying in their drugged stupor. With a wave of his hand, a crimson light enveloped them. The air crackled with malevolent energy, and the light seemed to pulse with an unnatural rhythm. "Ah! What's happening? My body!" One of the rapists cried out, his voice trembling with fear as he felt his body start to deteriorate. "Oh, no! Demon," another screamed, his face contorted in terror as he realized the source of the horror. The scene that unfolded before Ethan was nightmarish. The rapists and their leader began to wither and shrivel at an alarming rate. Their bodies, once full of life, now appeared as grotesque, desiccated husks. The transformation was swift and gruesome. Within moments, what had been healthy humans were reduced to lifeless, skeletal forms. Ethan stood frozen, his heart pounding in his chest. "Hey, what are you doing?" he managed to stammer, his voice trembling as he watched the horror unfold. The sight before him was beyond anything he had ever imagined. What kind of demonic magic is this, he wondered aloud, his mind racing to grasp the reality of what he was witnessing. Was this old man a demon himself, or was he wielding powers beyond comprehension? The sheer scale of the magic and its effects left Ethan in stunned disbelief. His face turned pale at the thought. Will he eat me as well? After consuming their essence, the old man transformed into a grotesque figure from his earlier muscular build. The grotesque monster then approached Ethan slowly, one step at a time. Ethan pressed himself against the wall, trying to stay away from the monster. However, when it came close, it revealed its big bloody teeth. Instead of hurting Ethan, it broke his mana-sealing belt with one of its tentacles, freeing him from its effects. Without wasting any more time, the monster started to slip away from the cellar. Most likely, it knew that the guards might arrive at any moment. As if on cue, 2 guards arrived before the monster could get away. However, the monster remained unbothered. Bang! Poochie! With a casual swing of its tentacles, the guards became meat paste on the wall. In the midst of the carnage, Ethan managed to activate appraisal on the monstrous figure before it disappeared. The screen in his mind provided the following details. Appraisal. Name, Killian Dillo, demonized. Age, 59. Level. Affiliation, demon faction. The name and affiliation only deepened the sense of dread that enveloped Ethan. Killian Dillo was no longer merely an old man but a demon of some sort, with an association to the demon faction that suggested far darker origins and motivations. As the demonized creature's form became a retreating silhouette, Ethan was left in the aftermath of the violence it had wrought. The guards were dead, the prison walls smeared with their remains, and the escape route now lay open. The gravity of the situation sank in. The monster had acted with brutal efficiency, clearing the way for its escape, and now it was up to Ethan to decide what to do next. The mana-sealing belt was shattered, giving Ethan a glimpse of the power he could access now that his restraints were gone. However, the sense of urgency was clear. The guards would soon be coming to investigate the commotion, and Ethan had little time to figure out his next move. Should he follow the monster, try to find another way out, or wait and see what would happen next? Each option was fraught with its own dangers and uncertainties. But one thing was clear, the old man's actions had irrevocably changed the nature of Ethan's predicament, and he needed to act swiftly to navigate this new and perilous situation. Boom. Boom. Bang. Ah. Demon. Emergency. Walla. As the demonized old man wreaked havoc in the prison, Ethan seized the distraction to escape his cell and run far away from the chaos. He didn't want to be seen as a perpetrator with the demons, so he had to get away from there as soon as possible. In the distance, he could hear the miserable screams of guards and the sounds of magical energy clashes clearly. The fight could be described as a one-sided massacre. It was as if the demonized old man was becoming exceptionally powerful as he devoured the blood of the guards one after another. It was a terrifying curse power. The prison's warning bell rang constantly, reminding Ethan that he was not out of danger yet. Although most of the guards were distracted by the demonized creature, a few were still at their posts. Ethan cautiously surveyed his surroundings. Finding a narrow gap, he crossed the main gate somehow, mostly because he was using muscle enhancement to raise his physical capability to the limit. Along the way, he picked up his sword from the storage room. He had previously noted where it was kept, so it was rather easy to find. After a while, he finally crossed the main gate, heaving a sigh of relief. Phew. Hey, wait. However, just when Ethan was about to relax, someone called him from behind. His heart skipped a beat, assuming he had finally been caught. Huh, Ethan? Right angle yin your dot. But when he turned, he noticed a familiar face along with two others he didn't recognize. It was Arya, with her bright smile lighting up her beautiful face. Ethan's mind unconsciously eased seeing Arya in front of him. A few minutes ago, he was still doubtful if she would ever talk to him again. But here she was once again, coming to his help. What are you doing here, Ethan? Did they release you from the prison or something? Arya asked, stepping forward. The anger from the previous day's misunderstanding was already gone. Aye. Ethan was about to explain, but an unexpected voice interrupted him. Boy, did you just break out of the prison? An imposing man asked, his eyes sharp. He was wearing a military uniform embedded with the Arachnes Kingdom's crest. He must be some kind of official. Do you know it's a serious crime to escape from here? Wait, did you also somehow cause the uproar behind? The officer's tone turned accusatory. No, I didn't, Ethan replied calmly. It was the work of a demonized human, and I have nothing to do with it. Uncle. Help. Then, Ethan noticed Arya signaling the other man beside her. Demonized human? That's a different matter. But why did you get out of there? You should have just stayed there obediently, not causing problems for us. Now let's go, I will take you back to the prison, the official said sternly, leaving no room for argument, as if his words were law. Ah, Chief Lionheart, cut him some slack. You know, he is the boy I was talking about earlier, Arya's uncle said, smiling. Chief Lionheart furrowed his brows. So, he is the one who was wrongly accused of murdering civilians? Rather, he killed a rogue hunter out of self-defense. I understand. So, tell me, boy, what exactly happened at the prison? Who is the reason behind all this abominable act? He asked, his expression turning gentle. Chief Lionheart became very cordial as soon as he heard Ethan had some kind of close connection with the renowned Silverman assassin house. He had no choice but to do so. The pressure was immense. Who didn't know the history of the Silverman assassin house? They were creatures of the night, specializing in assassination. They even completed personal missions from the king himself. The king valued them greatly because of their unparalleled skill in assassinations. They had finished off many opposing noble parties for him, after all. So, Chief Lionheart had no choice but to compromise a little. Ethan explained clearly to Chief Lionheart about the incident. Then he will let you go from here unhindered, Arya told gently in hushed voices. Ethan nodded and began narrating the whole incident, leaving out the fact about the real person who had become demonized. The old man helped him, even if it was unwanted. He couldn't be an ungrateful ingrate, could he? So, someone used demonic art in the cellar, and you don't know him? The situation is really critical, it seems. The demons are becoming more proactive nowadays. I need to inform the city lord as soon as possible, Chief Lionheart muttered, looking worried. Okay, you can now take him with you, Lord Astrid and Lady Arya. I have more urgent matters at hand. Please excuse me a little. It's no matter, Chief. Thanks for your gracious help. We can't be grateful enough, Arya's uncle replied curtly. Upon leaving the prison, they made their way to the inn where Arya and her uncle would drop Ethan off. His heart swelled with gratitude toward both of them. They traveled in an opulent horse carriage, its luxurious interior offsetting the occasional bumps in the road. Arya's lively chatter kept him engaged, her long silvery hair flowing behind her in the breeze. Arya and her uncle bore a striking resemblance to each other. Their build, eyebrows, and even their smiles were almost identical. Their shared silver hair further emphasized their kinship. However, her uncle's demeanor toward Ethan was far less warm than Arya's. He observed their interaction with a cold, disapproving gaze, clearly uncomfortable with their closeness. Nevertheless, Ethan's gratitude remained steadfast, despite the uncle's stern demeanor. After a little more than an hour, they reached their destination, where they would part ways. Arya, I'm very sorry for refusing your help earlier. Thank you so much. I will never forget your kindness, Ethan said sincerely, looking directly into her eyes. Arya frowned slightly. Ethan, that again. Am I no friend to you? She seemed down as she said that. Yes, of course we are friends. Ethan replied, flustered, not wanting to upset her once again. Arya revealed a soft smile after hearing his reply. Hey, boy, come here, her uncle called out from a distance, impatience evident in his voice. Ethan hurriedly left Arya to hear what he had to say. From his expression, he could guess it wouldn't be anything good. Arya stayed where she was, pouting. Her uncle had interrupted their conversation, but she couldn't complain. She had to beg him to help Ethan since her parents had refused outright, insisting she shouldn't associate with commoners, let alone use their precious resources to help one. Fortunately, her uncle had agreed after much persuasion. Thank you so much for your help, sir. I am really grateful, Ethan said to her uncle, trying to convey his earnestness through his tone and posture. Yeah, he dismissed Ethan with a wave of his hand, annoyance clear in his voice. Listen, boy, you should thank my niece. You have no idea how much she had to plead with her parents for your sake. They were furious all because of you. As Ethan listened, guilt gnawed at him for the trouble Arya had endured. Her genuine efforts had stirred unfamiliar emotions within him. Was this how close friends felt for each other? He wasn't sure, but he knew he owed her more than just gratitude. But then her uncle's expression darkened, and his next words made Ethan's mood turn sour. Listen, boy, don't try to get closer to Arya. Otherwise, you wouldn't know how you even died. No one would ever accept a romantic relationship between you two because you're just a commoner. His cold, piercing gaze bore into Ethan as he continued. Don't ignore my advice, Ethan. Don't make trouble for Arya. It won't be good for anybody. With your meager power, you wouldn't be able to protect yourself, let alone Arya. MV right angles I. Frustration grew within Ethan as he listened to her uncle's condescending words. Are commoners not human? Although he didn't know if he had fallen for Arya, he disliked their belittling attitude. Perhaps, social class exists in every worlds. Earth was divided by money, and this one was by only sheer power. Arya and he hadn't even touched hands, let alone any relationship. The thought of a relationship hadn't crossed his mind yet. But he had started to feel closer to her, that was all. Her uncle continued, Arya's marriage has already been arranged, though she doesn't know it yet. So, don't get your hopes up. The other party is much more powerful than you can imagine. Okay, I've said my piece. Now, you need to decide for yourself, boy. Saying that, he gripped Ethan's shoulder with overwhelming force, causing his joints to crack. From this, Ethan knew he was a true monster. He couldn't even gauge his strength using his appraisal skill. Afterward, her uncle released his shoulder and gave Ethan one last warning look. His sharp eyes left Ethan breathless. Ethan clenched his fists, frustration boiling within him. He hadn't even been in this world for a week, yet it had already shown him there is no peace without power. If he had enough power today, they wouldn't have dared to look down on him. Power, he wanted more power than ever. He desired overwhelming strength to pave his path forward without hindrances. He would gather enough power to turn this world upside down. As Ethan stood alone in the silent evening, his determination soared. The setting sun cast long shadows, mirroring the resolve growing within him. This world would learn to respect him, not for who he was, but for the power he would wield. No longer would he be the one looked down upon, he would rise above them all. Arya and her uncle set off on their journey, crossing the noble district with its towering buildings and extravagant luxuries. The area was a showcase of opulence, with houses and villas designed in a grand European royal-style ornate facades, intricate ironwork, and manicured gardens all spoke of an elite society that was worlds apart from the common folk. Inside their plush carriage, Arya turned to her uncle with curiosity. "So, uncle, what did you talk with Ethan about?" Her uncle dismissed the question with a casual shrug. Nothing much. Just some routine advice. I reminded him how to stay safe, that's all." "Is that so?" Arya's tone was light, though her eyes betrayed a hint of concern. She accepted his answer without further question, not knowing that her uncle's seemingly benign words had only ignited a fierce determination within Ethan. As the carriage rolled smoothly over the cobblestone streets, the rhythmic clatter of hooves provided a steady backdrop to their conversation. The golden light of the setting sun bathed the district in a warm glow, casting long shadows across the luxurious surroundings. Arya looked out the window, her mind wandering back to Ethan and the troubled expression she had seen in his eyes. "Mama, look. Big brother Ethan is back," Emily said cheerfully, her voice ringing through the inn. Innkeeper Greta looked up from her work, surprise lighting up her face as she saw Ethan approaching from the streets. "Ethan, you're back," she exclaimed. She hadn't expected Ethan to return from prison so soon. "Yes, Aunt. I'm back," Ethan replied with a warm smile. Seeing their familiar faces brought him a wave of comfort, a reassuring reminder that he was cared for. "Did that girl help you finally?" "I knew she wouldn't leave you alone," Aunt Greta said with a teasing smile. "Now, come inside and have dinner, Ethan. You look so skinny." "Emily, sweetie, go and get something good for your brother." Emily beamed and dashed off, eager to fulfill her mother's request. As Ethan stepped into the cozy inn, the familiar sense of home-cooked meals and the warmth of the hearth enveloped him. Aunt Greta fussed over him, brushing imaginary dust from his shoulders and leading him to a seat by the fire. "You must have been through so much," she said, her voice softening with concern. "But you're safe now at least." Ethan nodded, grateful for her kindness. "Thank you, Aunt Greta. It's good to be back." Emily soon returned with a plate piled high with steaming food. She set it down in front of Ethan with a proud smile. "I got the best for you, big brother." Ethan ruffled her hair affectionately. "Thank you, Emily. This looks delicious." "You're the best." As he ate, the worries and tensions of the past days began to fade. After having dinner and chatting with the mother and daughter duo, Ethan left the inn for the market specialized in hunters' needs. He couldn't afford to waste any more time. He was far behind his peers and needed to work harder than anyone else. Ethan entered a hunter's resource shop to find out about mana orbs. Mana was essential for increasing his strength, the only barrier to him getting stronger. The shop was beautifully decorated with various hunter equipment: swords, spears, shields, skill books, monster body parts, and more. The weapons section looked luxurious, with many high-tier weapons displayed neatly. The place was bustling with hunters buying and inspecting different items. "Hello, Sir Hunter. What can I do for you?" A beautiful woman greeted him warmly. Ethan cleared his throat and asked, "Hello, do you have mana orbs here?" The shop assistant looked interested and replied, "Yes, sir, we do have a few mana orbs." "How many do you need?" "Can you show me the price list for mana orbs first?" Ethan asked, feeling a bit embarrassed. He didn't have a penny with him, he was just there to gather information. "Sure, Sir Hunter," she replied professionally and handed him the information. Grade F mana orb 30 gold coins. Mana capacity increase 20. Grade E mana orb 50 gold coins. Mana capacity increase 50. And 100 bronze coins equals 1 silver coin, 100 silver coins equals 1 gold coin. Grade D mana orb 100 gold coins. Mana capacity increase 120. Grade C mana orb 220 gold coins. Mana capacity increase 260. Grade B mana orb 500 gold coins. Mana capacity increase 550. After carefully looking at the list, Ethan was shocked. So expensive, square root epsilon dot. They had the highest B grade mana orbs in the shop. Grade A and above must be even more expensive. One grade B mana orb cost 500 gold / 50,000 silver coins. Ethan had only a little more than a few hundred silver coins, which was nothing compared to this. Now the question was, how should I earn so much money? He could do some guild missions, but it would take months to buy one B-grade mana orb. Dungeon loot depended on luck, so that was out of the question as well. The shop assistant lady looked awkwardly at me, seeing him spacing out. She must have already taken him for a penniless bumpkin already. But he ignored her completely because he had a more pressing matter at hand. What to do? What to do? Just as he was racking his brain, a brilliant idea came to his mind. Why didn't I think of this earlier? I am so stupid. He scolded himself. He turned back to the shop assistant and said, I want 6 silver swords. Can you get them for me, please? The shop assistant was dumbfounded by the sudden change. The boy who had wanted to buy mana orbs now suddenly wanted silver swords. But her professionalism was commendable as she composed herself and nodded. Sure, sir, I will get them for you. He bought 6 silver swords for 600 silver coins. Afterwards, he left the shop. Then he entered an old alleyway to do something miraculous. Synthesis. 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 He synthesized all the silver swords, transforming them into 3 titanium swords. All of them were D-grade and sentient, equipped with special skills. They would definitely fetch a good price in the market, as sentient swords were rare. Now time to sell you guys. Do forgive me. He went to a different weapon shop to sell them and got nearly 18,000 silver coins. The shop owner was enthusiastic about buying them from him, so the deal was done quickly. With the money, he bought a few more silver swords and synthesized them again. After a few trips at night, selling and buying swords in different shops while wearing a black cloak to avoid recognition, he made a profit of an astonishing amount, a total of nearly 500,000 silver coins. Oh my goodness! He looked at the coins piled up in front of him in shock. It was like a small mountain of silver and gold coins, a breathtaking sight. Not even a noble family might be able to take out this amount of money from their treasury at once. It was truly a cheat-like ability. But because his mana ran low, he had to quit for the night. Still, it was more than enough for today. If this continued for a few days, he would become the richest man in city quickly. Not that he had any plans for that. Without strength, staying in the limelight was not a good choice. He had read similar phrases in the novels many times, so he understood this fact well at least. Now that he had enough money, it was finally time to buy the mana orbs he really wanted. Ethan scoured the entire hunter's market, buying every mana orb he could find. Because mana orbs were rare, he couldn't find them all in a single shop. He had to scour all the shops for that. Typically, hunters who found mana orbs in dungeons used them for themselves first. However, some people who reached their limit early sold them to earn a good amount of money, because of their potential reached early. Potential determined how much a person could increase their mana capacity. It wasn't like anyone could increase their mana infinitely, different people had different potentials. Some could raise their mana to 1,000, while others could increase theirs to 100,000 or so. Even if someone had the potential to gain high mana, they usually couldn't afford to do it due to the large cost and rarity. However, if you were associated with a noble clan or house, it became a lot easier to achieve it. After a lot of effort, Ethan managed to gather a significant number of mana orbs at last. He tried to buy the highest quality ones, but there were some low quality ones as well. B grade 3x. C grade 6x. D grade 9x. E grade 10x. F grade 20x. It cost him nearly 480,000 silver coins, leaving him with only 20,000. He couldn't help but feel a little remorse knowing all his piled up coins ran out in a single night. However, the gains were worth it. He looked at the glowing multicolored mana orbs with fascination. Each of them was palm-sized and warm to the touch. Now, the real question was how much mana he could absorb and what his potential was. It shouldn't be too bad as a reincarnator, right? Time to find out. Ethan remembered his initial plan to synthesize the mana orbs. With this, he could gain more mana. Synthesize. A new E-grade mana orb appeared in his palm instead of 2 F-grade mana orbs. He began to synthesize them one after another. Mana was not a problem because he could replenish it using mana orbs, after all. But he realized he couldn't make them to the highest level yet. Ding. Error. Your synthesization failed. Error. Your synthesization failed. Before he could enjoy his glee any longer, the notifications of failure kept ringing non-stop. He was able to synthesize them to C grade at the highest. Maybe he wasn't strong enough to synthesize them to higher levels yet. Still, it was not all bad. He managed to get them all to C grade. B grade 5x. C grade 20x. Finally, the calculation was all clear. Ethan took a deep breath and began absorbing the mana orbs one by one. The notifications kept ringing in his head nonstop. Ding. Dot. Congratulations. You have absorbed a B-grade mana orb. Mana capacity increased by 550. Congratulations. You have absorbed a B-grade mana orb. Mana capacity increased by 550. Congratulations. You have absorbed a C-grade mana orb. Mana capacity increased by 260. Yes. He couldn't help but feel excited. He managed to absorb all the mana orbs one by one. And he still didn't feel anywhere near his full potential. He could feel the vast amount of mana flowing through his veins and whole body. Status. Name, Angus Degerow, Ethan Smith. Occupation, Hunter. Race, Human. Level, 6. Class, None. Age, 18. Strength, 23. Agility, 19. Defense, 20. Mana, 80/70/80/70. Attribute points, 0. Skills. Active, Inferno Leap, D, Azula Sword Strike, E, Muscle Enhancement, E. Passive, Blaze Guard, E, Fire Serpent's Digestion, F. Unique skills, Appraisal, Basic, Skill Absorption, Mythic, Universal Synthesis, Ultimate. Equipments, Titanium Runic Sword, D. Seeing his improvement, Ethan couldn't help but smile. His mana reserve had increased to 8,070 points, which was nearly 70 times more than the original amount. It was a staggering number. He couldn't help but glee realizing how much he could do with this amount of mana. *T. I forgot to upgrade my sword. Oh well, no worries. I can manage for now. He looked toward the direction of the Fire Toad's dungeon and muttered, now, it's finally time to clear the F-class dungeon. He couldn't just accumulate money and do nothing, right? He needed to increase his level and acquire powerful skills. With a swift motion, he activated Muscle Enhancement and started running at a high speed towards the dungeon. Fire Toad's dungeon, 19th floor. Bang! Crash! As the last creature went down on the 19th floor, Ethan received another notification about his level up. His current level was 8. He managed to increase 2 levels after clearing all the floors behind. With his vast mana reserves, it was nothing difficult at all. The 19th floor was burned and scorched everywhere, a clear proof of how intense the battle must have been. He managed to collect a lot of old and new skill books using skill absorption and monster drops. But, he had no time to go into details now, because it was finally time to clear the final 20th floor, the boss floor. With anticipation and excitement, Ethan opened the door to the boss floor. At first glance, he was greeted with a giant fire toad nearly 8 to 10 meters in height. He had to raise his head to see its full form. He was tiny compared to it. Appraisal. Fire Toad, Elite. Power level, 15. It was 7 levels higher than him, and on top of that, it was an elite monster as well. It must be the boss of this dungeon for sure. Its giant fiery form was living proof of that. As soon as Ethan touched the floor, the fire toad sensed him immediately somehow. There goes his sneak attack plan. Now, he had no choice but to fight it head-on. Looking at its tough skin, he began to doubt his sword's capability. A D-rank sword should be able to pierce it, right? Still, I should have upgraded it for a situation like this. Now, no crying over spilled milk. The giant toad lunged at him, causing loud rumbles with each long jump. Its jumping left the spot in a scorching mess of rubble. Ethan took out his sword and activated Muscle Enhancement to raise his physical capability by 2-fold. Just as the giant toad was on top of him, he used Inferno Leap to dodge to the side, causing a loud rumble of smoke at the spot. Balancing himself, Ethan was about to launch a decisive strike at the giant toad. However, its giant limb came down upon him swiftly. He didn't have time to react. Its agility and power were on a different level. Bang! He was thrown to the side like a rag doll, using its giant mass of his paws. Upsilon. Cough. Cough. Spewing out fresh blood nonstop, Ethan found it hard to stand up for a moment. Fortunately, his new skill, muscle enhancement, saved him from immediate organ ruptures. He didn't expect it to be so powerful even at the solo level. His blaze guard was helping him withstand the intense heat the giant toad was emitting. So, he had a moment to think of a proper plan. Only then he noticed a large, triangular-shaped stone on the ceiling. Its sharp tip was pointing directly at the ground. If he could somehow use it to his advantage, he might stand a chance to defeat the boss. Ethan immediately sprang into action, using Azula Sword Strike to tick it off a little. As if right on cue, the giant followed him with a menacing look on its face. It was clearly angry at his provocation. Realizing the first stage of his plan was a success, Ethan started moving towards the direction where the sharp stone was placed on top. Using Inferno Leap, he jumped from the ground, and the giant toad followed him from behind. Observing this, he grinned. Now, only the last stage was left. He gripped his titanium sword tightly and used Azula Sword Strike, along with Muscle Enhancement, to break the rock hanging from the ceiling. Boom! Rumble! The sharp-tipped rock crashed, falling directly on the ground straight at the top of the giant toad. As for Ethan, he had already sidestepped according to his plan earlier. A perfect plan. He grinned slightly, awaiting the giant toad's demise. Croak! Followed by a miserable scream, the massive sharp rock fell on top of the giant toad. It pierced its body from the front. A wave of fiery ashes spread everywhere, turning the visibility on low. It should have died by now. However, after waiting for a while as the dust settled, Ethan still didn't receive any notification regarding the confirmation of his kill. After the vision cleared, Ethan cautiously approached the creature to see if it was still alive. If it was, he would have to deliver the finishing blow to end its suffering. Of course, these creatures never stay dead for long. They have a way of respawning almost daily, driven by some mystical dungeon powers. As he drew nearer, he could hear the faint, labored croaks of the fire toad. Croak! Suddenly, sensing his presence, the bloodied and battered fire toad emerged from the rubble with a chilling roar. Its eyes glowed with a mix of pain and defiance, and its body trembled as it struggled to rise. Despite its severe injuries, a violent red aura enveloped it, flickering like flames around its wounded form. The air around it seemed to shimmer with heat, distorting the space and casting eerie shadows on the ground. The creature's once vibrant scales were now dull and cracked, leaking a dark, thick fluid that sizzled as it hit the scorched earth. It was clear the fire toad was on the brink of death, but the aura suggested it was channeling its remaining life force into one last act of defiance. Each breath it took was ragged and shallow, accompanied by weak embers escaping from its mouth. He understood that it was clinging to life with every ounce of strength it had left, preparing for a final, desperate stand. The giant toad began releasing an abundant amount of fiery breath from its mouth, turning the whole area into a blazing inferno. Flames surged and crackled, engulfing everything in their path. However, Ethan remained unharmed, shielded by his E-rank skill, Blaze Guard. The flames licked harmlessly around him, leaving him unscathed in the midst of the firestorm. Frustrated by its failed attempt, the toad revealed its fiery tongue, aiming to crush him into a bloody mess. He swiftly dodged using Inferno Leap, the heat of the toad's attack barely grazing him as he moved. Undeterred, the giant toad lunged at him with its massive paws, intent on turning him into a meat paste. Each strike was powerful enough to shatter bones, but he evaded them by repeatedly casting Inferno Leap, his agility keeping him just out of reach. He could see the fury in its eyes as it became more desperate. Gradually, the giant toad's movements grew sluggish, and its attacks became erratic. It was exhausting itself, and he knew it was time to strike. Seizing the perfect opportunity, he activated Muscle Enhancement, feeling a surge of strength course through his body. Then, he prepared his titanium runic sword and activated Azula Sword Strike. With a final burst of speed, he used Inferno Leap to close the distance and finish the kill, plunging his sword into the toad with a powerful, precise strike. Slice. Bang. Finally, the giant toad fell to the ground with its head cleanly severed. Green blood gushed out, spreading everywhere and filling the air with a pungent, metallic smell. The sight was both gory and triumphant. Ding. Congratulations. You have leveled up. Congratulations. You have leveled up. Whoa. 2 levels in a row. Ethan had finally reached level 10 as a hunter. The journey had been fraught with challenges, but the outcome was worth it. He felt a surge of pride and relief wash over him. He approached the toad's corpse, and after a moment, it triggered a monster drop. Shimmering lights and items materialized around the body. He eagerly examined his loot. Skills. Predator's Instinct, E, passive. Allows the user to sense danger up to a certain limit. Enraged Boost, E, active. Temporarily increases magical power output by 50%. Items. Fire Toads, Elite, Tooth, rare material for crafting weapons and artifacts. Fiery Boots, made from elite fire toad skin and bones. They grant the user agility, +8 and high jumping ability. M square root epsilon rho yen dot theta. Nice, he smiled, satisfied with his rewards. A smile spread across his face as he imagined the new possibilities these rewards would bring. 2 good skills and 2 rare items, both are going to help him a lot. Still, he regretted not being able to cast skill absorption on the boss monster. Then, he looked around the floor, hoping to find something useful. According to his knowledge, there should be a dungeon core around here. With renewed fervor, he started searching for it. However, after scouring every corner, he couldn't find it anywhere. "Where is that thing?" he muttered in frustration. Click. Just as he was about to lose all hope, a hidden chamber opened in one corner of the wall with a soft mechanical sound. Peering inside the chamber, he found the dungeon core he had been searching for. It was a large, rounded ball, encased in a shimmering magical barrier. The core pulsated with a faint, otherworldly light, its surface etched with intricate, glowing runic patterns. The barrier looked formidable, but he knew it wouldn't be a problem. With his appraisal skill, he could decipher its weaknesses, even if only slightly. Concentrating, he used his skill to analyze the barrier. Gradually, he unraveled its enchantments, and the protective field dissipated. The dungeon core was now exposed, radiating its powerful energy in its glorious, shiny form. It was the heart of this dungeon, and holding it in his hands felt like a significant victory. "Can I really take it for myself?" he asked himself, sounding unsure. He touched the dungeon core and tried to move it, but it didn't budge an inch. It was magnetically glued to the stone altar somehow. Gradually, he increased his strength using all his boost skills, but he still remained unsuccessful. Huff. He sweated, finding the task incredibly challenging. Not even a level 20 individual might find this task possible. What should he do? He didn't want to leave it just like that. It would leave a bad taste in his mouth. He was expecting a good reward from it, after all. He pondered hard on the matter. Time was running out before he was cast out of the dungeon. Just as he was deep in thought, an idea suddenly crossed his mind. Rather than removing it, why not use skill absorption on it? Although he didn't know if it would work, it was worth a try. Skill absorption. Ding. Congratulations. You have acquired a special skill, monster breeding. Monster breeding, you are now capable of breeding monsters in a dimensional space. You can summon them whenever you wish. Current level, 1. Current summonable monsters, fire toads and flame serpents. Unit, 5x. Note, summoning units will consume your mana directly. He stared at the system panel in shock. He had gained an overpowered skill just like that. It would be extremely helpful for solo dungeon clearing next time. Rumble. Just as he was celebrating, the whole dungeon started shaking crazily as if it was about to collapse. He noticed a crack forming on the dungeon core surface as if it was about to shatter. Had he caused this somehow? There was no time to ponder. He hurriedly sprinted toward the exit, using all the speed he could muster. Fortunately, he had put on the fiery boots. They helped him leap side to side, narrowly avoiding falling rocks and collapsing walls. Unfortunately, in his haste, he dropped the fire toad's teeth on the way without even realizing it. It was already about to spill out because of its big size. So it was somewhat expectable. Well, no matter. His life was more important than a teeth, I guess. After a tense escape, he was lucky enough to make it out of the dungeon alive. *T. Ethan looked at the destroyed dungeon in shock. The entire structure had completely collapsed, now buried underground. Hey, what just happened? How did the dungeon collapse all of a sudden? Oh heavens! How did this happen? I don't know, I just got here. The commotion drew the attention of a lot of people. Hunters, townsfolk, and curious onlookers gathered, their voices rising in a chorus of confusion and concern. Ethan quickly blended into the crowd to avoid suspicion, his heart still erratic from the frantic escape of dungeon collapse. He kept his head down and moved with the flow of people, listening to their bewildered conversations while trying to steady his breathing. This kind of thing has never happened before. It's really a mystery. Taking a deep breath, Ethan quietly slipped away from the place. His presence was inconspicuous as it could be. He walked like nothing happened. Nay. As he neared the inn, he noticed a lot of horses and carriages heading towards the collapsed dungeon site. They must be officials from the city government, likely having just received the news. Fortunate timing, he thought, exhaling a sigh of relief. He was lucky to have escaped before their arrival. Blending into the evening shadows, he made his way to his living quarters. Once inside, he locked the door behind him and leaned against it, finally allowing himself a moment of respite. In the city lord's mansion. My lord, we have just received a report of an unusual disappearance of an F-class dungeon within the city, the butler announced, his voice steady yet urgent. The city lord, a middle-aged man exuding an air of authority, looked up from his work, his attention immediately captured by the unexpected news. A dungeon disappeared? What kind of joke is this? Did you verify it yourself, Butler Jeffrey? The city lord chuckled lightly, finding the report hard to believe. No, my lord. But the news is 100% true. We got it directly from the Night Patrol Division. Moreover, other citizens also discovered it with their very own eyes, Butler Jeffrey replied calmly. City Lord Longus frowned at the confirmation, finding the situation very critical. He asked with raised brows, which one disappeared, Jeffrey? It's the F-class dungeon, Fire Toad's Den, at the riverside to the west. We haven't identified any specific suspect yet. The city lord's expression grew serious, his mind racing through the potential ramifications. Okay, immediately investigate the matter using all the resources we have. Handle this with special care. This matter is really serious. Yes, my lord. As you wish, the butler replied, bowing deeply. As the butler left, Longus Emberian fell into deep thought. What could be the reason for this sudden disturbance? Is there some kind of deep conspiracy against humans? If this happens more frequently, won't it spell the end for the human race? He pondered, gazing at the serene lakeside view from the mansion. Dad, I saw Butler Jeffrey leaving in a hurry. Did something serious happen? Came the crisp voice of a young girl with red hair. Ah, Lenora, my dear, why are you here? City Lord Longus asked, returning from his reverie as he noticed his daughter standing in the room. Forget about me, Dad. Tell me what's going on with you. You looked so worried. And don't try to lie to me, I noticed you spacing out earlier. Lenora asked with some worry. With a heavy sigh, City Lord Longus patted his daughter's head and answered slowly, Lenora, an F-class dungeon disappeared just a while ago. I suspect the demons are behind it. They've been making a lot of moves lately. If these disappearances become more frequent, it could be catastrophic for us. While we don't know if they can do it on a large scale, it's still very concerning. Humanity relies on these dungeons for improvement after all. Lenora's beautiful face frowned with worry, her green eyes reflecting the gravity of the situation. A dungeon disappeared. Which one, Dad? It's called Fire Toad's Den, City Lord Longus replied, his voice tinged with unease. It was a crucial training ground for our young adventurers and a source of rare resources. The loss is a significant blow to our city's future. Fire Toad's Den? Isn't that the place where Ethan was grinding? Lenora Emberian's thoughts moved to a certain person with black hair. Is he okay? Seeing his daughter in an absent-minded state, he called out to her, What are you thinking so deeply, my dear? Lenora bit her lip before answering, Dad, didn't I tell you about a black-haired boy with high potential? He was also grinding there. I haven't seen him since yesterday, where we were supposed to meet. I'm a little worried. Oh, you should go and look for the boy. Make sure he's safe. All right, Dad. I will do as you say. Wait, don't go now. Look for him tomorrow, her father reminded. By the way, what was that boy's potential again? I forgot, my attention must have been elsewhere. Dad, how can you forget such an important detail? It's S plus grade. I saw it with my inherent skill, Ember's eyes. WH what? S plus grade? That boy has transcendental potential? Is it true? Longus asked, astonished. City Lord Longus was an S-rank powerhouse, so he knew what S plus potential means. That's why he was excited a little. He was trying hard all the while to reach to transcendental level himself. But he failed many times due to exhausting all of his potential. Lenora nodded confidently. Yes. If that's true, why didn't you invite him to join our clan? City Lord Longus asked impatiently. Lenora rolled her eyes. Dad, we just met. You want me to invite him right away? You're hopeless. Embarrassed, the city lord apologized. Sorry, dear. But be sure to invite him next time, alright? Okay, Dad. I will invite him to join our after we get to know each other. Name, Angus Degerow, Ethan Smith. Occupation, hunter. Race, human. Level, 10. Class, none. Age, 18. Strength, 27. Agility, 23. Defense, 22. Mana, 8, 070/8, 070. Attribute points, 0. Skills. Active, Inferno Leap -3, D, Azula Sword Strike 2, E, Muscles Enhancement 2, E, Enraged, E, Paralyzing Breath, E. Passive, Blaze Guard -2, E, Fire Serpent's Digestion, E, Predator's Instinct, E. Special skills, Monster Breeding, Level 1. Unique skills, Appraisal, Basic, Skill Absorption, Mythic, Universal Synthesis, Ultimate. Equipment, Titanium Runic Sword, D. Ethan felt a wave of satisfaction as he looked at the progress he'd made so far. It had definitely left a significant mark on his growth. Early in the morning, he gazed at the bustling streets with a smile on his face. He had become a ranky hunter, though it wasn't official yet. Still, it had taken him less than a week to reach this level, and he had done it solo. Big brother, breakfast downstairs. Emily's sweet call, as pleasant as a bird's chirping, reached his ears. Ethan headed downstairs to enjoy a sumptuous breakfast. Bro, did you hear? An F-class dungeon has mysteriously disappeared out of nowhere. And no one knows how it happened. I mean, how could a dungeon disappear? Aren't they formed by nature itself? One guest said mysteriously. Yes, I heard about it too. The municipal guards and the knights are taking the investigation very seriously, another guest replied. Hey, forget about the dungeon. I heard some mysterious guy bought nearly all the mana orbs available in the market. It caused quite a commotion today, a third guest added. And that's not all. The same guy sold a lot of D-grade sentient swords as well. Wow. A sentient sword? How enviable. Yeah, it's incredible. How amazing must that person be to afford so many sentient swords? In the past, we rarely found a few, but now they're available in the market for just 7,000 silver coins each. Perhaps he's a legendary weaponsmith or something? If so, then why hide while selling them? Really mind-boggling. Zyro Yen. I heard they're going to auction them today, said another. Yeah, bro, if only I had the money, I would have joined the auction to get one for myself. Why are we so poor? Another guest grumbled, slapping his forehead. While waiting in the dining room for breakfast, Ethan overheard the guests talking about his exploits from the previous night. His actions yesterday had been a little crazy, so he reminded himself to handle things more carefully from now on. After breakfast, he strolled through the bustling market, seeking useful information about a new dungeon to conquer. Strangely enough, he felt a tense atmosphere throughout the market. Guards, knights, and suspicious people were lurking everywhere, as if they were searching for something. With a casual expression, he passed through them without fear. That seemed the best course of action to him for now. Then, he headed to the Hunters Guild to get his E-rank hunter license. Without a license, he couldn't even enter the higher-ranked dungeons in the city. Although, there was another option to join a party to kill the ferocious beasts in the wilderness, but that idea seemed pretty far-fetched to him. He was not ready to venture into the wilderness yet. Hey, Melinda, good morning. Ethan greeted the receptionist introduced by Arya, as soon as he entered the Hunters Guild. Today, Melinda was wearing a long sapphire blue dress, looking more feminine than usual. Her glasses also added extra charm to her appearance. "Oh, Ethan, you're here." "Good morning," she replied with a soft smile. "I didn't think you would still be alive." Melinda replied with an inexplicable smile. "Yeah, I made it somehow." "But, you look more beautiful than ever, Melinda," Ethan complimented sincerely. Her long sapphire blue dress with red streaks, along with her glasses, made her look stunning. "Oh, thank you, Ethan. I usually don't wear these kinds of clothes. But today, I'm going on a date with my fiancé at noon." "So, yeah." Ethan smiled. "Congrats, Melinda. I wish you the best." Considering Melinda's real age, it wasn't surprising she had a fiancé already. She should have gotten married by now. She shrugged. "Forget about me. Why are you here? Are you here to sell your spoils once again?" Ethan shook his head. "No, Melinda. I'm here to take my advancement test for the E-Rank Hunter license this time." The requirements for reaching E-Rank was to reach level 10 plus 2 active skills. Other power ranks were the same. Level 25 D rank. Level 40 C rank. Level 60 B rank. Level 80 A rank. Level 100 S rank. With each 10 level up, one gets one added active skill slot plus one passive skill slot. That means, at level 100, one could equip a total of 11 active skills and 12 passive skills. On the other hand, he had already equipped half of the maximum number of skills, which was extremely abnormal. Was it simply because he had been reincarnated into this body, giving him a powerful soul, or were there entirely different reasons behind it? Fortunately, he hadn't revealed his skills out of cautiousness, otherwise it would have been really problematic. He had no choice to reveal his short progress, because he won't be able to enter higher tier dungeon without the license. "Oh, okay, then. Come with me." Melinda nodded, a little shocked by his progress.